This episode is brought to you by Revolve. It's interesting going back in the podcast archives because I think the thing that I wanted to be most to be on the inside of was to be a Revolve girl. And not that I, necessarily am, but Revolve is one of our podcast sponsors now. And I'm a longtime lover of the site. If I can't be at an actual third place of a mall like we talk about in this episode and watch the passersby so I know what to wear, I can at least look at Revolve's recommendations because they have the best curation of insert event you're going to or thing here, whether it's a weekend away, a big night out, or just a much needed wardrobe refresh. Your dream wardrobe is just one click away, and it's going to give you the best suggestions and the ultimate curation of what's current, what's trending at a variety of different price points. Now that 2026 is officially here, Revolve is the perfect go-to for a fresh wardrobe reset. Think elevated basics, new arrivals daily, outfits for everything on your calendar. There's 1,200 brands, 100,000 styles across fashion, beauty, and home. I'm a big fan of the sets from Amanda Upperchurch. I love a lot of Norma Kamali's stuff. I just ventured into the Rag & Bone pajama, sweatpant jean. And I was so skeptical, but you guys, what a dream. Head to revolve.com/BeThereIn5, shop my edit, and take 15% off your first order with code BeThereIn5. Fast 2-day shipping, easy returns. It's literally the only place you need to shop from. That's revolve.com/BeThereIn5 to shop my favorites and get 15% off your first order with code BeThereIn5. Offer ends February 2nd, so happy shopping. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Be There in 5 podcast. I'm Kate Kennedy, your host. Did I tell you guys, you know how when you're searching for something or everything now has AI summaries at the top? And what website was I on? I was looking for something having to do with my own podcast. And the way Be There in 5 was AI described was chaotic deep dives with oddly emotional payoffs. Read me to filth. I'm I guess that is what this is. Anyway, in case you missed it, a couple weeks ago, I shared that I'm taking a bit of a writing sabbatical and for the foreseeable brief future, we'll be kind of experimenting a bit with pulling episodes, from the vault, if you will, from behind a paywall to let them see the light of day on the main feed. Ones that I think maybe are strong but forgotten about, kind of got buried under all the yapping over the years, or kind of mashup episodes that are different cuts from multiple episodes that are thematically similar, or have a thread I want to tie that I figured out over time, which some of those will be coming, or that are kind of classics that I can do director's cuts of in some way. And I've been trying to think of not only episodes that are submitted often in my on my website I have in this searchable archive page, which is not updated. You can put it nominate your favorite episodes because I need to make a Be There in 5 101 kind of syllabus, and I'm always interested in what you guys think. And in these two episodes are constantly named. And when I think of Las Culturistas podcast, they'll ask their guests, what is the what do they say? What is the culture that made you say culture is for you? I'm always curious, what is the Beth culture that made you say the Beth culture is for you? And I feel two episodes in their relation to nostalgia and the millennial experience called Bath and Body Jerks and VSCO Girl Wash Your Face. For many of you, my impression is that is the Beth culture that made you say Beth culture is for you. And when I say that, I don't mean me. It always sounds very indulgent to talk about podcast lore because I'm the only host here. This is a community venture because over time, the podcast became a lot about crowdsourcing and hearing from you via DM, Instagram question box, having you write in. And it expanded this podcast's subject matter in such a transformative way. It altered, I think, ultimately what this show became, because I think your vulnerability and sharing your stories brought out a lot more of mine. I think I felt more comfortable going into some more complex, layered topics, having more of a cross-section of experiences. And I think I would kind of throw things out there on these stream of consciousness style episodes, see what resonated, and then really would spin off from there. And these two episodes were just real jumping off points for me in terms of realizing okay, even though this is kind of specific and being told through personal narrative, a lot of these things you guys experience too. Anyways, well, I want to chat a little bit because so you have something new to listen to. I'm going to listen alongside you and then insert my commentary in between the two episodes later instead of interject. But yeah, maybe I was hoping this would be a fun blast from the past from the vault. And I'm willing to bet my style is a bit different now. So, this gives me so much anxiety. Can I say From the Vault though? I don't know if that's accurate. Because Taylor Swift's version of From the Vault it's never been released. But Disney's From the Vault. Do you remember how much hype they would try to build around things being put into and released from the vault? I thought it was very serious. I thought they were going to the slammer. I was like worried for Fantasia. Like poor Ariel, she just got her voice. Now she's being locked away from 93 to '06. It is kind of interesting to think of how many millennial Disney adults there are because arguably maybe we couldn't be Disney children because all the good movies were put in the fucking vault as a marketing ploy for artificial scarcity. So the next generation of children could re-experience The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, so on and so forth. That's new because that was the whole point. Before streaming happened and made this not plausible, they wanted their films released like once per childhood generation, like they were new, to get the marketing push behind and to get the sales. And like it was wildly effective for a while. Like they were even hard to find at Blockbuster. So in some ways, I'm like resuscitating things for new listeners that, deserve another spin. But in other ways, I'm like, well, fuck, is this Fantasia 2000? It's like, guys, the Fantasia was cool in the 40s. These instrumentals playing to cartoons. But why are you trying to make Fantasia 2000 happen in IMAX? I didn't go, did you? I think that was a swing and a miss from the vault. They tried so hard to make Fantasia 2000 happen. I still don't really understand what Fantasia is beyond The Sorcerer's Apprentice, but that later became a separate movie called The Sorcerer's Apprentice, which I always mix up with The Page Master, which does bring me back to Blockbuster. Okay, couple things. Sorry. You can tell I've been podcasted in a while because I feel like I've a lot to get off my chest, but ultimately it's really nothing urgent or that needs to be said. But what these 2 episodes that we're playing today are about is stream of consciousness, nostalgic rambling, because I have been thinking a lot about friction lately. People are talking about the importance of living a more analog life, about embracing friction and not being a slut for convenience like I already am. And I've been thinking about this a lot because in my regular day-to-day life, I'm such an outsourcer. It's hard for me to really wrap my head around how I would realistically do this. But I actually so deeply believe in it for my son's sake. Whenever we're watching something streaming, or like if he wants to watch a car transporter vid on YouTube, we have 26,000 options. That's crazy to me, the instantaneous gratification and how like forming your brain with that, like, I don't know. I was a proud, glorified 90s iPad kid. Like, I'm pro-screen around these parts. I don't see how anyone gets anything done without a screen. I just mean making it harder to consume media so it's a more special experience and therefore more memorable. And not to be like in my day, we walked 5 miles in the snow, but like also, yeah, to be like that. Because in my day, the amount of friction involved with watching one movie is actually kind of remarkably tremendous for like not that distant of history. I mean, Be Kind Rewind culture is nuts in and of itself. Also, like the intimacy, the community, the common courtesy of thinking of the kid who's going to watch this copy of, Gold Diggers Escape to Bear Mountain. What is it called? No, that's Witch Mountain. That's the Richard sisters. No, it was Gold Diggers Secret of Bear Mountain. I like really wanted to love that movie. It was always out in the new release section in a really frustrating way. And we'd always have to watch somebody's brother's movie. And like there was a time in the mid-90s, per the page master of it all, where it's like, no, Elise's brother, I don't want to watch Indian in the Cupboard. Do I look like a person who wants to watch a kid in King Arthur's Court? Make like Homeward Bound 2, your other favorite movie, and get lost. Not in San Francisco, in this case in Short Bump, Virginia, but I will not watch Homeward Bound. I will not watch any animal movie where the animal maybe could die, even if I don't know if that happens in Homeward Bound 2, does it? Am I mixing it up with Old Yeller, Marley and Me? I don't know. I think people that watch dog-related movies where there's a potential pet death, they need to be clinically studied if you watch that for sport. Regardless, what was I saying? Oh, I think another funny corporate strategy. There was like a case study about this and about how Be Kind Rewind came to be. And basically it was cost cutting that they wanted to market as politeness because Blockbuster had issues with really long lines, if you recall. And I guess the labor involved with the machine and the wear and tear on the tapes. And I don't even know. They just decided that they'd like push it downstream to the customer and make you look like a dick if you didn't rewind. It's kind of smart. But also the fact that we participated, I'm charmed by. Anyway, just the thought of like, we want to watch a movie. Okay, someone's parents have to drive us. We have to somehow get money. Someone's parents have to drive us. Then we have to go look around, achieve consensus amongst friends or an entire sleepover. Can you imagine? And even if we've done that, it doesn't mean it's in stock. The new release wall was always barren with copies of the good stuff. Then you're going around, you're trying to find something else. My friends were really into soccer. I was never as charmed by the big green as they were. I'd walk past Howard Stern's Private Parts, and I remember so distinctly seeing that movie cover like every time I was in a Blockbuster Hollywood Video or Video Time and being like, I shouldn't be seeing this. Because all I knew of Howard Stern was like, at the time, known for like pervy interviews with girls. And that's like, it's him in naked with like skyscrapers, right? Anyway, regardless, one of the topics on one of these episodes is like the friction involved with downloading music, making playlists, LimeWire, CDs. And like, my God, that was the most involved process. And it's so crazy to think of growing up and just being able to play music on command. And I probably mentioned it in the episode, but like, I mean, even thinking about how if you wanted to hear a song and you didn't know the music, your best bet was to call into the radio, or other workaround, going to a Barnes & Noble or like a Borders Books of Music. And I used to clock so much time listening to demos of CDs, but then you could literally only listen to the chorus. Like, think about how high effort that is to just listen to the chorus of like a top 40 song because you didn't own it. I mean, and it's like, I can never decide if I'm romanticizing that for reasons it doesn't deserve, or if there's validity to the gratification for especially art being consumed in that way and how it expands your appreciation for it. And again, I don't want to be one of those people that talks about nostalgia like our day was better, but I am interested in exploring how that develops character, identity, personality, and how it impacts your retention of media and pop culture as your own nostalgia, as your own lore, and how I just think so much of, the content of this show, it was developed in my longing for things, in my not having things, and then the friction involved with getting things. And anyway, these episodes kind of explore some elements of nostalgia related to this theme of friction and a more analog existence. And what I'm going to do is listen and edit. So I cut out filler and like current events and shit that just like isn't important, because I'm going to try to fit in like the best of 2 episodes in one. But in between them, I'll share with you like kind of my director's cut feelings, because I'm a little nervous. One of my issues over time with nostalgic content is that in 2019, this felt, I'm not going to say like unique or original, because the point is to like dig into shared experiences. But nostalgia didn't feel as mined as it does now, because in a post-2020 world where algorithms started showing you content that wasn't the people you followed, I think this nostalgic content took off in a big way because meme culture thrives in specificity. And if you can mine tiny elements of nostalgia for like a meme account, or make videos of the tiniest, most specific memory that actually turns out to be quite universal, which is like the entire psychology of how memes succeed. It's like, oh my God, this is so me. This happened to other people too. Nostalgia does that really well when you can pinpoint really memorable things that aren't talked about a ton that people remember vividly. And I mean, the people that make videos, like those are not easy to create. And I love being able to watch and reshare that type of stuff. But I do think that like memes and deep fried tweets and accounts that mine the millennial experience for every morsel within our existence, it almost makes like nothing top of mind, but everything seem trite because you've like seen a meme or a video or something about it. And at the time, memes were huge, but I don't know. I do feel like it's different now. And I just see a lot more of this content now. And I just don't know if in today's day and age, like, will this even be fun to listen to? We'll see, I guess. Because reading these episode descriptions, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. People like these so much because I would argue this is the type of thing that today's day and age seems very overdone. And I'm curious if I felt it was at the time or if that's me now. This might be long because I'm combining 2 episodes in one. Though I do need to do a Patreon about Taylor and Blake's text messages and also the Brooklyn Beckham situation. I just think it's fascinating. And speaking of Disney, Nelson Peltz, his like attempted takeover of Disney shareholder seats, and like, wasn't he the one trying to make ABC Disney like less woke? I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on both families. It's so hard to be on a break. I need to focus on something else. So yeah, I'll hop on Patreon eventually. But would this be a throwback if it wasn't highly apologetically over 2 hours IDK? So pick up whenever, leave off whenever. I'm just grateful you're here and we're experimenting with something different. So bear with me. And we're going to thank some of our advertisers. And I'm so grateful for them being willing to sponsor this experimental phase and going back into some of our archives and whatnot. By supporting them, you support the show. But I'm stalling because I'm nervous. This is me 6 years ago, you guys. I'm sorry if I'm annoying. Am I sorry? I don't know. I'm still annoying. Why did I just bring up Gold Diggers, The Secret of Bear Mountain? I think that I'm like triggered because like as the podcast grew, obviously the amount of feedback does. And I think this was like the peak era of like, she's so fucking annoying. She's so rambly, she's so on and so forth. And I do think that I have toned it down over the years just to like survive. But this might be really annoying. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, let's just do it. Bye. It's 2026, and if you're still paying rent without Built, it's time for a change. Built is the loyalty program for renters that rewards you for your biggest monthly expense, rent. And if there's one thing I know about us millennials, it's that not all of us are homeowners yet, myself included. And I don't love paying rent. I bet you don't either, but Built makes it feel a little bit better. It's the loyalty program for renters that rewards you monthly with points and exclusive benefits in your neighborhood. With Bill, every rent payment earns you points that can be used toward flights, hotels, Lyft rides, Amazon purchases, and so much more. And something exciting, starting in February, as much as I'd love to gatekeep to this being a perk for just us renters out there, the exciting news is that starting in February, Built members can earn points on mortgage payments for the first time too. So you'll be able to get rewarded wherever you live and unlock exclusive benefits from more than 45,000 restaurants, fitness studios, pharmacies, and other neighborhood partners. I love to like kind of gamify airline points, and we'll go to websites that will tell me like how my points from one place will translate to the other and transfer. And I personally am most interested in like Built points going toward my next flight or hotel. I love a bougie hotel. And I think with stuff that, usually is like an ACH payment or whatever that you can't get points for, that's like a high dollar amount, it's nice to be able to operate within a point system that is redeemable toward other things. You can earn rewards to get something back wherever you live. Join the loyalty program for renters at joinbuilt.com/BeThereIn5. That's JOINBILT.com/BeThereIn5. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. This episode is brought to you by Baked by Melissa. Finding the perfect gift can feel impossible. You want something that's thoughtful, fun, and guaranteed to make people smile? That's why Baked by Melissa is my go-to. You guys know I believe in little treat culture. We all deserve a little treat. And this is why I love Baked by Melissa. These are bite-sized cupcakes made entirely by hand. You can send via mail to turn any moment into a celebration, and each bite-sized cupcake gives you the perfect ratio of cake, of stuffing, of icing, of topping in every bite, with new flavors introduced every month. It's like the perfect thing to send to people you love. It's like one of those gifts that like it's just the perfect gift for literally anyone. There's a variety of flavors, whether it's Valentine's Day, gifts to your partner, to your grandparents, teachers, friends, parents, every situationship you haven't even defined yet. Baked by Melissa ships fast and arrives in 1 to 2 days nationwide, and you can choose the arrival date, guaranteeing your treats arrive perfectly fresh. And there's something for everybody. They have gluten-free options, vegan, no nut. They have beautiful, unique packaging, and it's just, I don't know, it's the most crowd-pleasing gift that I always get commentary on, like about how it was something kind of like out of the ordinary, but they really loved because, again, I just think people love a little treat. And to be able to have like a bite-sized cupcake and try multiple different flavors within a pack of the cupcakes, or like a themed pack of cupcakes that are just like cute to look at but also taste delicious. And Baked by Melissa has celebrated more than 100,000 birthdays since 2008 and has been featured on The Today Show, Good Morning America, People Magazine, and more. Right now, Baked by Melissa is offering our listeners 20% off your order at bakedbymelissa.com/BeThereIn5. That's bakedbymelissa.com/BeThereIn5 for 20% off your order. bakedbymelissa.com/BeThereIn5. Hi, Kate from the Beyond. Okay, so these first clips are from July 17th, 2019, episode number 67, called Bath and Body Jerks. Enjoy, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Ultimately, the reason we're here is because of the thing I love the most, which is talking about any and all things related to being a teen, a preteen, even an older kid. At the turn of the millennium, late 90s, early 2000s is my kind of, I don't want to say bread and butter because I don't know what that means. I would suggest I'm some sort of like scholar as it relates to the 90s and the aughts. But really, I don't know. It's just it's an important time that I remember in great, great detail. And I think I'm lucky that so many of my listeners are kind of in my exact age range, plus or minus probably 5-10 years. So we all had similar experiences in our youth. And one of these experiences that I thought would just transport you back to a poorly lit gym dance floor, perhaps a multi-purpose room, that takes you back to a kitten heel, to an ill-fitting dress that you probably got in an argument while buying with your parents because, Ashley or Jessica or somebody who's apparently a Vanderbilt shopped at Cachet, and you can't possibly understand why the dress that you don't even like that you're going to grow out of in about 3 months worth $250 doesn't make sense for a 12-year-old. You're holding a green beverage that I believe we called leprechaun liquid, but I don't know if that's universal. that was a weird mixture of punch mixed with ice cream so it would foam at the top. It had a lovely texture similar to what we now know as an adult an egg white does to a cocktail. Picture yourself, standing next to a full-length foil fringe door curtain and, just praying somebody asks you to dance when Casey and JoJo's All My Life comes on so that somebody can put their hand on your shoulders with limbs like a Ken doll that have absolutely no bendability at the elbow because you've got to leave room for the Holy Spirit. No freak dancing, no grinding. I think about all these things being dropped off by parents, feeling awkward when we get there early. The girls are on one side, the boys are on one side. Slowly, the music makes us all start to mingle. You hover around the punch bowl for a while. You circle dance a while. Maybe you get in one or two slow dances. But toward the end of the night is when things really get poppin', and when they start to play songs that really get the crowd going, and you start to feel alive and like yourself. And Who Let the Dogs Out comes on, and you're barking. You're going wild. Maybe some edited version of the thong song if you were lucky. Drums like a truck. I still don't really understand what that means. Followed by the sheer thrill of the cha-cha slide coming on, because before you got tired of it because it's played at every wedding, and everybody all of a sudden thinks they're a honky-tonk line dancer. And then once you think it can't get any better, once the night's almost over and you're fearing that there's going to be that one last slow song, maybe God must have spent a little more time on you and you're not going to get in a real banger first. You are blessed, beyond blessed, with this sick beat that I think encapsulates the spirit of the middle school dance, and I cannot believe that they played this song for us. And it goes a little something like,
I wonder if she could tell I'm hard right now. Yeah, come on, dance for me, baby.
It's a little song called Too Close by Next that you just heard. And that is the radio edit, believe it or not. And it's basically about when you're grinding and the guy gets so excited, how the girl feels a little poke coming through. Now, I truly didn't think about that song very hard, no pun intended, until 2010. I was like, wait a second, that wasn't about what I thought it was about. Holy crap, that is incredibly suggestive, was very unedited on the radio, and it's riddled with euphemism, but nothing vulgar or explicit, like that's extremely obvious. And, it's a fantastic song. And I do remember that playing everywhere I went in middle school, and it just makes me laugh that is the entire premise of a song. Like, baby, when we're grinding, I get so excited. Ooh, I can't, what is it? How I try, but I can't fight it. Dancing real close because it's real slow. You're making it hard for me. Double entendre. Touche next. Anyway, so I was thinking about that song this morning because I was blessed with a blast from the past, which was a post that somebody tagged me in from Beths, who was an early champion of Be There in 5 reminder mats, might I add. Love them. It sent me into a tailspin, a true tailspin, and not the early 90s cartoon with Baloo from the Jungle Book tailspin, but a better kind, an internet tailspin of suburban shopping mall culture, because this post is about how you knew someone was truly special back in the day. Like now we have influencers, but back in the 90s or whatever, you knew somebody was truly special when the employees at Abercrombie told them they were hot enough to work there. And this was such an urban legend, like somebody becoming an Abercrombie model or being asked to work at Abercrombie. And Abercrombie was at its peak when I was a little bit too young for the workforce, but I still remember hearing about this. And we all know that Abercrombie is the originator of the unattainable black and white sepia toned, impossibly beachy low rise mega hottie. And, I can't say I was ever asked to work at an Abercrombie. I really do feel like my brand of hot was more was better equipped for a wet seal stock room. And not on the front lines of America's most aggressively fragrant store and, true hub of awkward socioeconomic dynamics among middle school friend groups. I long for a mall hang. I love a mall hang. Everything about mall culture, I miss so dearly. And if you grew up in the city or in a more rural area, I'd be interested to know if you had like a proxy for this, because as far as I'm concerned, from like late elementary school to early high school, there's a series of events that are just so meaningful to me. And that is pulling up to a suburban mall, parking near a department store that you inexplicably have to walk through to get to the main area. So frustrating. Where there's, this gorgeous tile that could crack a head open, which you've been in fear about since you saw Clueless and Ty so rudely was dangled off of the banister by Elton. You smell the odor of fresh pennies in the mall fountain. Enough pennies, like so many pennies that like one hand swipe, I could probably do some damage at the Sam Goody. And there's that god-awful indoor landscaping with like a few rogue potted plants and trees that are trying to make it like an indoor-outdoor mall, but like you're not fooling anyone. We all know we're inside in an atrium because of the audibly crippling echoes of everything ever going on in this mall, be it a bad piano recital, the children screaming and crying outside the gymboree, the piercing screams, pun intended, of the piercing pagoda, where, God forbid, somebody going to get their first set of studs gets the dreaded urban legend of the ear infection a la Stephanie Tanner in Full House, which I would liken to the threat of quicksand, and that it's something that you talk a lot about in childhood that like never actually happens. My thoughts and prayers to anybody who did get an ear infection, but like if you're a person with a mom who would attack you every night with a Q-tip, you clean the earrings, which I never do now, by the way. Am I supposed to be doing that? Anyway, what else would happen at the mall? I don't even know what I'm talking about. I just love doing my usual rounds. I'd hit up the Claire's, the Spencer Gifts and or the Hot Topic, the American Eagle, the Abercrombie, the Warner Brothers. Gotta get that Bugs Bunny polo. Natural Wonders or Discovery Store to get my singular polished rock in a velvet bag. Maybe one of those weird squishy, phallic ocean things I've talked about, or beads that hang from my door. Maybe a little Wet Seal or Deb or Rave if I was like feeling wild and, wanted to hide something from my parents. If all else failed and I was lost, I'd just park in the Walden books and chill in the calendar section till hopefully somebody found me because it was near our parking spot and who was not up for some wholesome calendar perusing now and again. There were times when you could do anything you wanted. Like if you really wanted, you could go get your name written on a tiny grain of rice and it put in this like jar bauble thing that would hang on your neck for eternity. And by eternity, I mean the next, 2-3 weeks until you are sick of it because it's not new anymore and you realize you're really more of an airbrush t-shirt gal. I love so many things about it. And this is different from like going to the mall with your parents when you were younger. And at least for me, the distinguishing factor is like, you'd hit up the KB Toys. You'd go to the Limited 2. You'd like drag your feet through a snooze fest, like an adult home decor store that was like heavy on African inspired, kind of tchotchkes, like a Kirkland's or maybe like a Bombay. Is that a real store? It just popped in my head. I need to look that up. But anyway, you'd like ultimately end up in a sensible department store like Hex or Dillard's or Sears, where you do the bulk of your back to school shopping because your parents don't really understand why you need a $40 rugby shirt you're going to grow out of in October and can't possibly understand the price point of the slacks. I just think there's so many interesting dynamics about a middle school friend group and a mall hang. There's kind of the socioeconomic factor of realizing like how much money people have to begin with and or how much money their parents will give them and like how a lot of people really shop till they dropped like their entire life. And I'm so grateful I didn't because that's why I remember all this stuff. Because while everybody else was rich with the 2 armfuls of shopping bags, I was rich with experience and just took in every single moment and loved it so much. So we have socioeconomics. Then we have anatomy. Considering, until you were sharing a dressing room close, you didn't really realize when somebody like had boobs or how things fit them. And then people all of a sudden were like, oh, I look fat. And then you start to learn at a very young age the art form that is the solicited compliment, And you realize, like, I don't know. I just remember some people were so comfortable changing in front of other people. And like, I never was until a much older age. And like, that is a thing because if somebody just drops trow in front of you, like to this day, if somebody just like takes their top off and changes, because they're like a naked person. I'm like, hello. Or to quote, next, too close, you're dancing like you're naked. I don't love when people say naked. So we have socioeconomics, we have anatomy, we have rampant consumerism because you could not leave the mall having not bought something. I mean, nothing was more horrible at the time than a mall day that you came home absolutely bagless, itemless. And I think that back then I was like pretty proud of myself because I was pretty sure I found the perfect, safe, trendy, but under $5 practical item that I without fail could find at the mall. And that perfect item is a Bath & Body Works mini hand sanitizer. It's timeless, it's fragrant, it's affordable. It illegally has those weird beads in it that scrub your hands now. But regardless, if you could get in that bin and find yourself a cucumber melon, a moonlit path, a sweet pea, a warm vanilla sugar, you were made. I mean, like, I'd even consider a country apple if times were tough, but like, I freaking loved going through those barrels at that Bath & Body Works. Like, the stores at the time looked like kind of down home country. They were kind of like a Cracker Barrel with that, like, I don't know. It had like a picnic table gingham red awning. Remember that? And it kind of reminded me of a Cracker Barrel, but like without the rocking chairs and a lot more teenage theft. I really did feel like they were always side-eyeing me when I was looking through the barrels, rummaging through the barrels of hand sanitizers, looking for the, highly coveted cucumber melon or sweet pea. I just always remember that vibe of them thinking everybody was shoplifting, and it just really bothered me because I was like, no, Stephanie, I'm not stealing. I'm doing you a favor because everybody is tired of how tired the branding of Sun-Ripened Raspberry is, and I'm the only one willing to buy the sanitizer. Jesus. Like Bath and Body jerks, if you ask me. I hate when people laugh at their own jokes, but, what are you going to do? Anyway, what was I saying? Abercrombie, I don't know. Oh, yeah, the politics of a mall hang. I don't know, guys. I just I loved the mall back then. I don't even want to return to it now. My mall of choice, if you are from the, Metro Richmond area, it was Regency Square. Short Pump was built late in high school, and that's when we thought we were like low Bosworth and LC and the gang, and would just put on giant ass sunglasses from Steinmart and like sit outside at the CPK and pretend like, we were royals. But before then, if you wanted to see NBC, you need to be at the Regency food court. I freaking love a food court. I'll still go to a food court. Like, the food dynamics alone of a large group of young women, it could be a full courtroom drama, actually, called The Food Court, with Auntie Anne as our Judge Judy, actually. I really, my particular poison was Arby's. As I mentioned in the episode, after the party, it's the local Arby's. We used to go there after cotillion and like after dances, and like when boys wouldn't dance with me or things didn't go my way or whatever. I was always very comforted by like a concrete and a beef and cheddar. But when we'd go with groups, it was very interesting. Like, who could afford Dippin' Dots? Those things are like $8. They don't last very long. Everybody wants a bite. I'm partial to the banana flavor, but everybody always wants rainbow or chocolate. Who was the friend that aggressively got a full orange chicken platter at 11:30 a.m. on a Saturday from the Panda Express? Like, the worst offender of the food court, my court drama, is the friend that wants to borrow. And you're like, are you okay, girl? Like, you do realize there's an Arby's, a Panda Express, an Auntie Anne's. Let's go get a rainbow cone at the Baskin Robbins. Like, you're better than that. You're better than a pizza whose container can't even withstand its own grease. And I don't know, guys. Like, to this day, I think Auntie Anne's deserves a freaking Michelin star. Like, that buttered, oh my God, a pretzel with butter and salt. Like, I don't know what heaven is, but I'm hopeful it's like, hi God, hi Jesus, nice to meet you. Here's the Auntie Anne sample guy with the tray with the free like buttered pretzel samples and like a little bit of cheese dipping sauce. And I'd be like, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, I'm in the right place. Thank you, Jesus. I love a soft pretzel. Anyway, that was a little bit much for that. Back to Abercrombie. I had the funniest DMs today about people that worked at Abercrombie. A lot of people talking about this Subway sandwich levels of pumping the smell of Abercrombie Fierce, the official fragrance of like a mega hottie with an eight pack. I've never met, I mean, like, is that how many abs you have? Like, when people say six pack, is that a perfect ab set or should it be 8? I'm not clear if that's like an exact, like a hyperbolic thing or real. Clearly, I don't know a lot about muscles. But anyway, I don't know, guys. It's just the olfactory connection to that cologne, the wafting through the air like a siren, luring the sailors at sea. I wanted to shop at Abercrombie so bad. I wanted everything there. I wanted to be a cool kid. I wanted a tiny denim skirt, even tinier sleeve shorts with like little critters on it with like pink, like seersucker stripes and red drawstrings. Remember those very specifically. I wanted a jean jacket that was shearling lined. I wanted rugby shirts on rugby shirts. I wanted paper thin Henleys that were meant to be layered because nothing says winter like paper thin layers. I just like, you know, snakes on a plane, and he's like, enough is enough. I've had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane. I was like, this is not enough. I need more motherfucking moose on these motherfucking shirts. I need the biggest moose. I want the biggest moose you can find. And I want it on the front of my shirt. And I wanted to say Abercrombie and Fitch. And I wanted to say established in 1892. And I want to be like rolling up to school in an age inappropriate t-shirt with a weird saying on it that is kind of suggestive, like mine was with the, I'm pretty sure I only had one shirt from Abercrombie. I'm like vaguely remembering another that had something to do with a surf shop, but I don't know if that was from Hollister or American Eagle. All I know is I got them off the sale racks with my babysitting money. And the sale racks were pretty much only paper thin Henleys without a lick of a logo. Like, if it was on the sale rack, it's because nobody knew it was from Abercrombie. And if it wasn't known to be from Abercrombie, it was literal garbage in my book. So I found one thing that was very Abercrombie. Like, it was a shirt that said Midnight Cowgirl. It did have like small little like rhinestones on it, and it was a little bit snug in all the right places, and I wore that shirt into the ground. Looking back, basically means hooker, or like maybe, I don't know, is like a position reference or something, but regardless, not great for 12, which, you know, spurred me to ask the crowd, ask the audience of your example of the Midnight Cowgirl t-shirt that you're like, that doesn't seem right. And because I had been getting funny messages all day, but I just now, like 10 minutes ago, asked people to tell me theirs, because earlier in the day, people were like, oh, I had one that said bait shop. And it said, for tourists, we take half off. For locals, we take it all off. Like, what? And one girl said, mine said, I got an A+ in French class. The other one said, I had one that said back by popular demand. I look back now and I'm like, back from where? And popular demand from who? I was 12. One said, I may not be perfect, but parts of me are pretty awesome. One said, it's all relative in West Virginia. Little offensive. Incest jokes are not very 2019. Don't kill the messenger. And let me look on Instagram to see what other people said, because I don't know why, but these make me laugh so hard. I don't even know if these are that funny. They're just like random. This girl said, mine said Mario's Pizza. Always hot, always ready. Parentheses WTF. Like, yeah, who was Mario's Pizza? It always had like these made up businesses and surf shops. The Red Poppy Lodge. It's nature at your fingertips. What? That's incredibly random. Mine wasn't from Abercrombie, but my grandma bought me a shirt at 12 that said Hustler 69. The back said, it's a hidden tiki spot where the island girls are hot, hot, hot. I remember that. It had like a hula girl on it. I wonder what the front said. That's so funny. And I also remember this. Lady Delilah's School of Snake Charming, you'll get a quick rise. Yikes. They knew. Oh my God. You guys, I mean, whatever. Some of these are so random. I had one that said, love means nothing. I was 10. I had one that literally said, I had a bowl of bitchy for breakfast. Save a horse, ride a cowboy. Classic. Quote, Big and Rich much? I guess this might have actually predated Big and Rich. What a better world we were in before Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy, JK. I do like the, what's it called, bridge. Whatever happens when the dude's like, well, I'm a thoroughbred. That's what she said in the back of my truck bed as we were getting buzzed on suds out on some old country road. We were flying high, fine as wine, having ourselves a big and rich time. And I was going just about as far as she'd let me go. Whoa! Holy, holy coercion! Like, why is everything ruined? Big, or whoever it is, rich. Come on. Why does it always have to be so far? Can't people just have some like wholesome fun? Jeez. Disappointed. I knew. Someone else said, I had a yellow American Eagle t-shirt with an ear of corn on it that said, "Shuck me." God. I got told to change, and my mom was offended and told them it's just a cute ear of corn. You know what, Mom? I support you. That's hysterical. North Carolina. It's great to be on top. I'm from Massachusetts and was 12. I love that you clarified you're from Massachusetts. North Carolina, it's great to be on top. I'm Samantha. Like, truly, did Samantha Jones, public relations, write, like, do all the writing for these shirts? Abu Dhabi, do. I forgot my favorite one. This girl said, I was so mad that my mom wouldn't buy me sweats. I was so mad that my mom wouldn't buy me sweats that said Camp Spread Eagle. That is so disgusting. Moms are no fun. Geez, Mom, live a little, get a life. I just like am thinking about myself as a mom and my like 11-year-old coming home from the mall with sweatpants that say Camp Spread Eagle. And like trying to explain why it's like not great, not appropriate, why they were on the sale rack. Oh, geez Louise. Anyway, I also was like shuddering with the memory upon recounting my Midnight Cowgirl t-shirt, because there was this other phenomenon back in the day, and that was coming back from summer break and all of a sudden you got hot. Like people would get hot over the summer. And this happened with a lot of boys. You know, they'd outgrow their baseball buzz cuts. They'd grow, they'd get off braces. Like I think guys really saw major single summer changes, and girls did sometimes too. But beyond the getting hot after summer, the quicker fix for me was to get hot after spring break. Because so many of these people buying the gift sets at Bath and Body Works and whatnot were going on like cruises. They'd come back with their hair and gorgeous, if not weirdly appropriating cornrows with beads at the end. They'd come back with, you know, wraps, these thread wraps on one singular piece of hair that I did figure out how to do myself by simply taking friendship bracelet thread and making a 4, your hair being the pillar. And you make a 4 shape and you pull it through and you essentially tie a knot over and over and over again. They would have these tans and these you know, one-piece Speedo tan lines, or these like high halter boy short tan lines. And I just like, A, I don't tan, and B, I wasn't really going to beaches during spring break. Like we did that in the summer. I think a lot of families did. I just like chilled during spring break and like looked forward to my Easter basket. And one spring break, a friend asked me to go on a trip with her family, and I thought, oh my God, this is my ticket. I am going to take all of my babysitting money. I am going to go hit up the boardwalk. I'm going to buy all the puka shells. I'm going to buy a miniature license plate with my name on it. I'm going to buy a sign that says street parking for Katie only. I'm going to get a beaded bracelet that says courage on it. I don't even know what that means, but it's going to give me courage to tell my mom that the cash she gave me to give to my friend's parents to pay for my dinners, I actually blew at like the Wings. If you're from the East Coast, you know what a Wings is. But anyway, beyond that, you know, coming back with all my new threads and jewels, by jewels I mean shells, I thought I would get a tan. And like I've lamented many a time on this podcast how I really did not understand the perils of tanning beds, sun exposure, etc. till far too late. I haven't been out in the sun since I was probably 23. But, you know, first it was high school and like homecoming and prom dances, and I went to the tanning bed and I told them I was older than I was and like illegally went in it, but I still like, they still somehow like had access to my credit, but I don't know how, because I didn't know my social security number at the time. And like, it was like a whole thing. Like my credit was like destroyed when I was like 15 because of this tanning salon. I didn't know I didn't know I'd signed up for a monthly package. Like, how did I even pay for that? I don't know how the whole thing went down. But anyway, besides that, in middle school, before tanning beds, obviously, I would just like try to sit outside and put on tanning oil because I wanted to come back and I wanted to be super tan, super hot, and have everybody been like, where have you been? Tell me about your break. Do you want to go on a date? Do you want to kiss in a closet? And basically, I'd sit outside with oil. I'd burn to a crisp, like to the point where I sat out the first day. So then days 2 through 5, I could not go outside, and would eventually turn into a tan that, if positioning my crew neck right, you might be able to see that I had somewhat of a tan line. This is before I wore makeup, all that stuff. I just really wanted to look like I had been somewhere. So I decided that in order for boys to notice me, for my friends to be like, you're so exotic, where'd you go? Tell us about it. Did you meet hot boys? Any of those Abercrombie models with the 8-packs at the beach? I decided that I would go get my mom's blush. And because I was fair, and because people probably knew I couldn't tan that dark because I had been to the pool many a summer with my gal pals, I decided that before school, the first day back from spring break, I would just cover my face, entire face, with blush. And when I say I like tip to tail, like forehead to chin, ear to ear, just did several concentric circles until I was bright as a tomato, until I was debatably feverish, and I could march into school and have everybody be like, damn girl, hot sunburn. Much to my, and I'm sure your, surprise, everybody didn't ask me about my vacation, about how gorgeous I looked. Everybody asked me what was wrong. I got sent to the nurse's office. I was compared to a tomato, an apple. I was asked if I was embarrassed several times. And at one point, people were asking me, they were coming up to me super flustered, super concerned. And I didn't really understand the reaction. And then I realized it was because they thought because of my complexion, I had just run the mile, and then they thought they didn't realize the presidential fitness examination where you had to run the dreaded one singular mile was that day. And to be fair, that is what I looked like after I typically ran outside because my skin is iridescent. So then not only were they insulting my red face, they were also insulting my athletic ability. And from there on out, I went to the bathroom and I debated whether or not I wash it off and have it all just end it. Not my life, the blush on my face. And realized, this is why you don't lie. I am caught between a rock and a hard place. I am caught between a puka shell and a courage power bracelet. Because I have to keep this pink face on the rest of the day. Because my sunburn's not going to fade after 4th period. And then I'm going to have to come back tomorrow with a little less blush on, but still some blush on, and so on and so forth. Until allegedly it starts to peel, but let's hope we get to Friday so I can pretend I peeled over the weekend. All that to say, I learned at a very young age, I am not well equipped for a long con. But my hopes and dreams of looking hot after a break or a summer or whatever still stood, and I think I did it one summer because I found sun in. And my hair is the type of mousy that actually does bleach. It can go one of two ways. One is very dire, very orange, very tough stuff, very hard to reverse. Did you run your hair through a light wash of Tang? And one is like brightens up your face. Like I feel like, as bad as it sounds, once I figured out my hair, everything else fell into place. It sounds so shallow. I'm talking from the mind of a person who was like 13. I wasn't really concerned with like world issues at the time, except for, Ruthie's alcoholism on The Real World and anything I heard on Nick News with Linda Ellerby. Honestly, at that age, all I thought about was how I wanted to be hot. I hoped I could save up for that shirt at Kohl's that had was a blue sky with clouds on it. And like how I hated math. And I got contacts during this age. And that was when I learned the trick of if a teacher's not going to let you go to the bathroom, you pop your contact out and then they can't say anything. So if I was feeling uncomfortable or sad or bored, was about to cry, all those things, I just, would simply pop out a contact, hop to the bathroom, and then really painfully put in a very dry contact back in my eye and take my sweet time because I loved cruising those empty halls when nobody else was there. It was really quite thrilling. I used to like, do you guys remember in between, I don't know, was there 7 periods? When you liked a boy, you would figure out their class schedule, and then you would find yourself on their path from class to class so you could bump into them. Only when I had on a cute outfit. And then if the day finished and nobody saw me that I liked in my cute outfit, I was so mad. If you get past like, 3rd, 4th period and you still haven't run into them, your best bet's going to be the lunchroom. Hopefully you have the same lunch. If not, you make an excuse. You need to make change. You have a rogue lunch tray you left in your locker. I don't know. You find yourself in front of that person and you strut on by. I don't care what anyone says. Public school hallways were runways. And the people at their lockers turned around, or you're a front row, you're Anna Wintour and co. that you're trying to impress with your latest string of looks and accessorizing. And on the right day with the right outfit, the right compliment from the right popular person, you are just soaring, flying. There's not a star in heaven that you can't reach. I remember one time, I remember her like first, middle, and last name. I've looked her up recently. Like, this is so lame. One time in gym class, I overheard this girl tell another girl, and I wasn't friends with this girl. She was a lot more popular than me. She had a boyfriend. She was so cool. She lived in like this really nice house, and I don't know. She ended up moving after 8th grade. But I overheard her tell another girl that she thought I was pretty. I just got butterflies thinking about it. That meant so much to me. And if you're not called pretty, like at that age, I did have my expander, my double expander. I don't know if I still have the gap between my 2 teeth that you could put a pencil eraser through, but I was very gangly and I was as tall as I am now. And I was just so self-conscious and uncomfortable. I always had great friends and I was like confident in my skin, but like, I don't know. That's what's funny now is because, and what's important is teaching young girls. I'm the biggest arbiter of like, there is more to life than being hot. Like this thirst trap, Instagram, bend over, foot up, claw in mouth, like BS that I see everywhere that's teaching young people just to like stare at the camera and mouth lyrics and like pout your weird overlined lips when you like still have baby teeth. Like it's terrifying to me. And there's so much more life than being hot. And it's important that to teach young women, like it's way more flattering and amazing to be called smart, to be complimented on your personality, to be funny, to be a great conversationalist, to be polite, all these other qualities that are more important. Like obviously we know that. I preach that a ton. I want to teach that to young people. But I think back on me as a kid, and I'm pretty emotional and intense. And like, I actually don't think I'm that shallow of a person. I do think my interests at this age were quite shallow. But I'm like, really? That's all I wanted was like boys to pay attention to me. And I think it's so interesting to me because I don't know why I cared so much. And literally, it wasn't my parents. It wasn't the shows I was watching. It was my friend group. Like, they were all boy crazy. They all had boyfriends. I did not have one. I couldn't find people to dance with me. It made me sad. I did not feel pretty. It made me feel blue at times. I always knew I was smart. I always knew I was a killer at rhyming. I always knew I was bad at math, but I had other strengths. And I won poetry contests, and I had reasons to think I was cool for the things that I liked that maybe weren't conventionally cool at that age. But I really did care about how I looked. And I really did care about having a boyfriend. Long story short, this is like a really long way of saying, I don't know why I so vividly remember this girl calling me pretty. I don't know why it like was life-changingly important to me. I don't know why I still remember it. And I feel weird that I just got a butterfly thinking about it now because I think of little me and I'm like, oh, just so flattered and so excited and literally thought she ran over like a Mario Kart star in compliment form. It just made me take off, riding high. All I heard was those. How do you even describe that noise? The running over a star in Mario Kart. So if this were like a verbal, audible meme, it would be like, girl, I think Katie Kennedy is so pretty. Me. Though it's tough to say. I don't remember if that compliment was pre or post my metaphorical banana peel, which was that of Blushgate 98. This episode is brought to you by Caraway, and I'm excited to welcome Caraway back to the Be There in 5 podcast. I first was introduced to them when they were an advertiser a couple years back and started using their pots and pans. I got a gorgeous navy set, and I've since added some new ones to my collection. They're actually black and gold, which are just like almost too fierce to even use on my countertop. Caraway cookware is designed with a third-party tested non-toxic ceramic coating that's made without forever chemicals, supporting a health-conscious lifestyle. I think for me, I am very tuned into convenience. And when I say these are easy to clean, my God, are they easy to clean? I don't always hear people highlight that, but like, I think the nature of ceramics, naturally slick surface, makes it not only easy to clean, but like you can slide the eggs off your pan without like completely super soaking it with butter or oil. And beyond that, like, I don't know, I'm just spending less time at the sink scrubbing. Post-meal cleanup is a breeze with these pans, and it's nice not to feel the anxiety of like scrubbing and scratching stuff that hardened on the pan when I couldn't get to it quickly enough. And they have this really great organization system. And I just think, between the non-toxic factor, them being just like generally really cute, and I just never really see pots and pans with gold hardware, and I love that, to being like super easy and convenient to clean up, especially because in my life phase, I'm not always getting to the dishes right away. I just think Caraway is wonderful. And they also have like butcher blocks on their website made of thick premium wooden surfaces crafted with walnut and maple wood for a plastic-free cutting service. They have glass lids made with premium tempered glass for clean cooking with a view. And their new bar set is crafted from rust-resistant stainless steel to deliver high-performance, cleaner prep and long-lasting durability for smoother pours and enhanced flavors. And if you are a millennial out there, I know you are holding on to that bar card. And what a perfect addition this would be. But, you can take my word for it. But over 100,000 people have rated 5 stars about their Caraway kitchen. Not just me. And now's the time to try it for yourself. Caraway's cookware set is a favorite for a reason. It can save you up to $190 versus buying the items individually. Plus, if you visit carawayhome.com/BTIF, you can take an additional 10% off your next purchase. This deal is exclusive for our listeners, so visit caraway.com/BTIF or use code BTIF to check out. Caraway, non-toxic kitchenware made modern. This episode is brought to you by Cozy Earth. And you guys, I'm reporting to you live from the tundra. I used to complain about how cold I was on this podcast all the time, but you might notice I rarely do anymore. And that's because I am either at my desk or in my Cozy Earth laden bed under the coziest, fluffiest comforters imaginable, under my double-sided fur, weighty cuddle blanket. And most importantly, I spend most of my days in my Cozy Earth bamboo pajamas because my home is wild temperature inconsistency where all the heat goes to the top and I freeze here at the bottom. But my bamboo pajamas allow me to be warm when I'm cold down here and cool when I'm warm upstairs. And even better for me, they have a tall option for needing longer inseams because pajama bottoms like never fit me. And I gifted them to my mom. I gifted them to my sister. My sister gets hot when she sleeps, so she has a short sleeve version with the long pants. My mom and I have the long pants and long sleeves. I have blue, I have black, I have a toile. I love these pajamas and swear by them. And they're the perfect Valentine's gift for yourself, for others, for anybody you care about or who you want to have a cozier winter. For someone special or for yourself, Cozy Earth makes it easy to bring comfort and care to your everyday life. And this Valentine's Day season, they're offering a BOGO pajama deal you won't see any other time of the year. These viral PJs are so good they sold out during the holidays, and now they're back with an exclusive deal, only available January 25th through February 8th. Head to CozyEarth.com and use my code BETHEREINFIVEBOGO to get these PJs for you and someone you love. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here. Celebrate everyday love with comfort that makes the little moments count. Thanks to Cozy Earth.
Somebody else sent me this article from their town. Sounds like a footloose town, but it's actually Hartford, Connecticut. And it was hilarious. It's this article it's from January 13th, 2007. So I was out of high school at this point. But it says, students push past limits in, quote, freaking. And it's about freak dancing. And Principal Neil Sullivan said the school has been trying to rid its dances of a style that has come to be called grinding, freaking, or booty dancing, which aghast educators and parent chaperones have described as simulated sex with clothes on. Here's my question as a grown adult now. Does Principal Neil Sullivan or parents and chaperones, have they ever heard of dry humping? Like, pretty standard practice that I'd argue is far safer than actual penetration. High schools and even middle schools around Connecticut and the country have struggled with how to curb the dance craze, some coming face to face with it a decade ago. Exasperated school officials have tried everything from printing to... It's just so stupid. Exasperated school officials have tried everything from printing "no freaking" on prom tickets to canceling dances. I mean, that's a keepsake. Admit one, no freaking. I just also, like, we didn't call it freaking, we called it grinding, and that term is so funny to me. Plan B, their heavy-handed, rule-bound approach, dropped on Wednesday, when the school sent letters to parents informing them that back to front dancing was henceforth banned, beginning with the dance scheduled for Friday night. It worked, but perhaps too well. It didn't take the students long to show their disdain for the new rule. Only 3 tickets were sold. They sold 3 tickets after they said no back to front dancing. Literally, nobody wants wholesome fun. They just want to grind their privates into each other. And it's so sad, but it's so funny. It worked, but perhaps too well. I really wish this was a Keith Morrison narration. In letters to the parents, Principal Neil Sullivan said he didn't want to use words such as intimate to describe the dance style for fear they would not grasp the gravity of his concern. After writing, "Please forgive us for going into detail," Sullivan and 3 other administrators proceeded to give parents a blow-by-blow. Oh, okay. Come on. Okay. Who wrote this article? Mark Spencer, the current staff writer. You knew what you were doing with that blow-by-blow. You're no better than Abercrombie. Or Fitch, for that matter. Unbelievable. Sullivan and 3 other administrators proceeded to give parents a blow-by-blow of what their kids were up to. In the kind of dancing that we are seeing, the male student stands directly behind the female student. He then places his hands on either side of his partner's hips around her midsection. You know things are getting hot and heavy when you use the word midsection. At the same time, he presses his pelvic region against his partner's buttocks. As the music plays, the students then thrust or grind to the beat of the music. Sometimes the girls will even bend over as they dance, placing their hands on the floor while their male partner grinds against their backside. Well, Neil Sullivan, that, my friend, is a little move that we, in the modern age, call the linebacker. And then there's this kid named Drew Barrett, who is the secretary of the senior class, who was trying to refute and parody this letter, and was quick to clarify that I've never seen a thrust on the dance floor. Barrett said, "It's more of a sway." And you know what? I bet he's right. I don't see people hard and fast thrusting. Fellow senior John Berenberg said a few couples occasionally took it too far, but that's improved since the school started using a passive alcohol test to screen students entering the dances. Okay, narc, John Berenberg. In discussions with students, some teachers have said freaking is demeaning, particularly for female students. Oh my God. Then there's a quote. "My teachers say that, but I think girls are just as much of a part of it as guys," said one girl who was a junior and asked that her name not be used. Guys, women, even back then, felt they had to be silent. Women cannot be sexual creatures that have an opinion about grinding. She's basically saying, we're just as into it as the guys are, but she didn't want to be named, unlike John Berenberg, unlike Drew Barrett. Unbelievable. We are slut-shamed at our core, from the get-go. We never stood a chance. And then they start to interview the DJ. And it says, Chris Vagnini, unfortunate, Nene, Chris Vagnini, DJ Vag? I was like, is this a joke? He doesn't say he goes by DJ Vag, but does he have a choice with a name like Chris Vagnini? Chris Vagnini, Chris Vagnini, it's probably Vagnini, like Vanina from Flipping Out with Jeff Lewis. Chris Vagnini, a DJ for Cheshire-based Power Station Entertainment, who was scheduled to work Friday at the dance, said freaking is common across the state. He often sees chaperones at high school dances tapping on a student's shoulder in an effort to create a little space between couples. But Vagnini, 19, he's 19. Okay, it says freaking is the dance style of his generation, but some of what he sees on the dance floor is offensive. On his own, or often prompted by teachers, he often changes up the freaking prone rap or hip-hop song with a Frank Sinatra song or something like the Jackson 5's ABC. That usually clears the floor, he said. Wow, this is some outstanding journalism, Mike from The Current. Like, is it really surprising to you that the kids want a little less ABC 123 and a little more 369 Damn Girl Fine? Like, no, get with the times. Anyway, everything about that article kills me. I read new things every time. It is like, it just screams sexual suppression of these vice principals who are on weird power trips that just, they're trying to get the message is right. It should be more appropriate. People that young don't need to be engaging in simulated sex acts. But at the same time, there's a way to talk about it that doesn't make you the least cool person on the planet. There's got to be a balance. God bless you, Neil Sullivan. Anyway, guys, today I will leave you with what I might say is the single most important song as it relates to our generation that apparently are rampant freakers, freak dancing, freaking, booty backing, whatever they called it. We are just, just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. And you guys might have the waltz and the foxtrot, but we have the linebacker, face down, ass up. we love a light midsection grab. What can we say? Consensual, obviously. But beyond all of that, our greatest dance move of our time is the entire room emphatically doing 4 things. Pointing to the window, then pointing to the wall, then doing some sort of itsy bitsy spider rain gesture of sweat dropping down Lil Jon's balls. And then, if you're listening to the radio version of a school dance, all these females crawl. And a few more aggressive, or perhaps under the influence individuals, will in fact start to crawl. I am not one of these people. Not that I don't want to be. Just, even during shout, a little bit softer now. I'm like, he's not saying a little bit lower now. We don't have to, be doing a duck walk, sitting on our feet here. It's really unnecessary to me, and especially in a short dress. But when it comes to Lil Jon, it's nearly impossible not to do exactly what he says. And I believe it was Michelle Obama who said, when they go high, we get low. And with that, as always, let me know your thoughts, and I will let you know mine. I'll be there in 5. I swear. Okay. Kate from the Beyond. Kate in present day. First of all, what would Kate of 2019 think if I told her, speaking of Michelle Obama and that quote, that in 2026, Michelle Obama would be talking about that quote on Call Her Daddy. Do you remember what Call Her Daddy was full of Gluck Gluck 3000 mode? How the tides turn. Also, I'm not sure if I realized that, over the years, I've had merch of podcast quotes that people have, asked me to put on merch. But over time, I forget what they're from. And less ABC 123 more 369. I hadn't thought about in a while what episode that was from, and I guess it's that one, unless I'm repeating a joke. But also, isn't it 369 Damn She Fine, not Damn Girl Fine? There was a couple things I said wrong in there. Another one that's kind of funny is I was saying thong song, drums like a truck. And what's interesting is that in One in a Millennial, I tell a story in the You've Got Mail chapter about being ridiculed on AOL Instant Messenger for putting on my away message the lyrics to Thong Song where I said dumps like a truck. She laughed maniacally and corrected me and said, oh my God, it's drums. And however I internalized that over the years to even say it wrong as that being the top of mind lyric, saying it in passing, it's kind of interesting because it's definitely dumps. Also, I do still have that vocal inflection. That's how I said big, rich. Also would have taken out a big and rich tangent in these times. That was too annoying for me. Also, was I watching, I think that when I was watching Schitt's Creek for the first time, I would Moira Rose my vowels sometimes, with stand or whatever I just said. Otherwise, I think about FU Cachet prom dress, Money Weekly. I do think my brand of hot is best reserved for a wet seal stock room. And I love how I'm kind of apologizing and trying to caveat I'm not a shallow monster, but I cared about being hot when I was young. And I feel by the time I wrote One in a Millennial, I flew that flag much more proudly that no, I just cared about being hot. And also, I don't know. At this age, I don't think I want people commenting on my personality anymore. I think I'd be open to just being hot. But I actually remember recording this in ways I don't remember, a lot of stuff. I mean, this is going to sound silly, and I know this just isn't a thing people do because it's not normal to talk out loud to yourself for long periods of time.
But it's kind of like anything creative when you get into a creative flow, or honestly, like when I've played sports and you get in the zone, it's that like flow state that you can't manufacture, you can't predict, and you have to follow when you get into it. And some parts of that episode, my vocal tone I find really kind of annoying. But I also is kind of like the register I'll operate within if I'm like really riffing, like if I'm in the zone and I don't. It's almost like this state where I don't even know what's going to come out of my mouth, and like that's why it kind of embarrassing. I was so excited when I said Bath and Body Jerks. One of my favorite parts of recording is not knowing what the episode title will be until like I hear myself say it, and that one I just can tell I was like so self-satisfied. But I was just like going and going and going and going. And yeah, I think that's what became hard when people were kind of mean about the rambling and like the maniac sounding nature of it. It's not like I don't really talk like that conversationally at all. But in this specific type of like entertainer role, when I'm forced to talk alone into a mic, it's like a state I'll get into that I think produces like some of my better like references in work. But I think that became harder for me to get into when I became aware of how annoying it is for some people. What's also interesting is the things I would take out now, and it's just a function of over time, just the things people get on your case about that I feel different ways about the level of nitpicking. And if it's something genuinely offensive, okay. And I feel like there are words in there that now I'd take out just to be safe, even though I didn't mean them that way. Like I don't really say the word lame as much anymore, for example. Okay, next too close. It's like to launch the episode with that. It's like I see a next too close meme about, oh my God, that song is about boners like literally twice a week now. That's the stuff that I'm like, this doesn't feel that original to listen to. But I still stand by that I didn't know what it was about until I was like a lot older and didn't really think about it. But I feel like that's kind of a universal experience, hence why it's a popular meme. The sunburn story kind of warmed my heart because it's 100% a true story. I remember really like plotting it out and thinking through it. And honestly, now I actually don't see I'm like, is it a lie or was it kind of early self-tanner before we even had Jergens Natural Glow? I was trying to be honest because I don't really tan well. So I was trying to be accurate but skew the results. So I don't think that fits into the petty little liars category of being actively misleading. I think that was just trying to do the best with the hand I've been dealt and exaggerate the circumstances I was in ever so slightly because my spring break just didn't produce the blistering results I had hoped for. But yeah, that vacation was so memorable to me because it was a vacation with my friends. So my mom gave me cash to give to her parents for like all the meals, but then they gave it right back to me. And I was like, oh my God. I literally couldn't believe I had that much cash to burn on the boardwalk. And I went to town and it was like such a thrill. This was a part of a full episode that had a lot of like filler. So if there's current events that aren't relevant anymore, I'll take it out. But I am like drinking pauses and like babbling for time's sake. Actually, let me find it and play it because this is exactly what I'm talking about now that I'm kind of shook that I felt that way then. But I was already being kind of a bitch about like people using overplayed nostalgia. Hold on. Typically my goal is to bring up things that are somewhat universal experiences, but that you might not always tap into, but that also aren't cliche. Cliched nostalgia drives me nuts. When people like post a meme being like, hey, remember Legends of the Hidden Temple? And it gets like 1 million likes. I'm like, guys, do you do any digging into your past whatsoever? That's the most basic of the game shows. If we're going to talk a niche Nickelodeon reference, let's at least discuss, the short-lived cartoon interstitial Ambi and Dexter that taught us all what ambidextrous meant because they were two tiny people that were able to paint that were represented like a right and left hand when they were done with their project. And I love educational things like that. How could I never forgot what ambidextrous meant, but also I never had to use that word because why would you use it? I kind of wish they did something that it was an actual like problem or thing adults get wrong so they could teach an entire generation how to do something correctly. Like if one of the little characters was named Ear and the other one was named Regardless, and together they were irregardless, but they made everybody so mad when they were together because they so did not work together, and it makes no sense. And how has nobody broken them up over time and been like, hey, yo, Ear, fall off a cliff? You know what I mean? So like, no, I don't think people know what you mean. It just came from the beyond. I think about Ambi and Dexter a lot still. But like, no, that what a nostalgia snob thing to say. But I still was implying that at the beginning of this episode, but in a much like more diplomatic way. And yeah, I think I had to revisit the transcript of that episode. One in a Millennial was like content told in a different way and podcast topics like more drawn out and explored. But also it was like an opportunity to kind of elevate and preserve some of my better work. And I think that there's a reason I started chapter 1, limited 2 at a mall. I'm obsessed with malls. I'm obsessed with malls as a metaphor for the world we grew up in that no longer exists. I think like us, much like malls, are these structures that are still here, but are largely also abandoned and their entire ecosystems are gone. And I think I feel similarly about trying to like reconcile the world we live in now and what I thought it would be like. And the mall for millennial women, I guess specifically like a suburban mall in America in the late 90s, early 2000s. To me, the sights and sounds and scenes and smells of a suburban mall at that time are similar to like kind of it's similar to what I think is actually kind of amazing about Mass, which is you can go in downtown Chicago in rural North Carolina or in its epicenter in Rome, and you know exactly what to expect. The incense smells the same. The order's the same. You know what they're going to say. Like, it's familiar territory in an unfamiliar place. Like, I feel like suburban malls all had this same, like, sensory experience associated with it. You know, I know it's a false god, but I do think, like, elements of mall culture are so ritualistic. It is almost church-like. We might just get away with it. The altar is Spencer Gifts. Even if it's a false god, okie doke. But, what was I saying? Yeah, I could wax poetic about malls all day, but I really do think that we talk now about the importance of third places, and we've talked about Sephora teens and, you know, this more analog existence, but, like, I think you have to really sink your teeth in, like, the substance that this experience provided when you get dropped off and get to experience a sort of controlled freedom at an age when you're like, yeah, a preteen and you don't work and you can't drive, but you're like so ready to exercise some of your own independence and like there's nowhere to go. Paired with how much you would learn at that age about socioeconomics, about class, about your body, about like restraint and consumerism and materialism. Like there were so many different lessons to be learned in that space where you were loosely supervised by like the rules and social order that exist within a mall. But you were technically free to roam, free to loiter, free to try things on, free to experiment like with different versions of yourself, whether window shopping or trying stuff on with friends or just like sitting there watching the world pass you by and getting a glimpse into teenage life, into young adult life, into lives of other people beyond your reference group at your school, and the time in life when you're like either a student to teachers, a child to your parents, an athlete to a coach. Like the mall was this place you could go to just be a person. And I feel like the mall was one of the first places I felt like a person in this world. And I felt like kind of moved by the anonymity, even though like 12-year-olds at the mall aren't as subtle as they maybe think they are. And to this day, I still feel very strongly about malls. And that the staff at the Regency Bath and Body Works needed to take a dry brush out of their ass and just let a preteen rummage, whose best case scenario is leaving with a hand sanitizer and a dream. Like, come on. Picked over scents at the Bath and Body Works were a huge problem. And people like me, like Kelly wouldn't fight. She'd just go top of shelf. She'd be like, oh no, I love Frisia. Frisia? Are you crazy? I still laugh at her about Frisia. No offense to Frisia fans out there. Anyway, did you guys see that the girl who did the YouTube video about the peach Bellini candles, the Bath and Body Works rant from YouTube back in the day? She kind of did what I'm doing. She like did a video kind of like sharing and recapping her experience of that video going viral like 3 years after it came out from Appleton, Wisconsin. Ugh, chef's kiss. Okay, so I'm going to play VSCO Girl Wash Your Face now. It's from September 25th, 2019. I don't have a lot of time left. Whoops. I think Bath and Body Works was more like a Cornerstone episode. I maybe didn't even realize how much was in that episode that ultimately became such a core part of like the topics I'd talk about. But VSCO Girl Wash Your Face, now I'm like, I don't know if I remember why this was popular because I thought it was maybe emo lyrics. Looking at the description though, I'm like, actually what the reason this might have stuck out to people at the time is because it was the first time I brought up Rachel Hollis in like a contrarian manner. And at the time it was the best-selling self-help book. And I remember treading very lightly because I was so nervous to insult something that was like helping people, but the book wasn't sitting right with me, and I wanted to kind of put feelers out to be like, what are you guys? I don't know about her. But it would still take me 2 years to do a deep dive because I need to feel like I have a lot of evidence to like do something that feels like a takedown piece because it's just not my style. Regardless, so yeah, I think I'll probably just share some of the shorter clips of nostalgia from this for the sake of this mashup. We'll see. Okay. I'm going to thank our advertisers, then get into the episode. And this episode is indeed also brought to you by Helix Sleep. And so was VSCO Girl Wash Your Face, which is so crazy. I just want to say, like, shout out to Helix Sleep. You guys, they literally are one of the first brands to take a chance on me. Helix mattresses have supported my back ever since I've been sleeping on one since 2019, but they've also like carried the show on their back by like paying me to do it and allowing this to become my full-time job. And they were so core to that at the beginning, and I just can't thank them enough. It's crazy how a good night's rest sets you up for a great day. And really, most of my night sleeps are great thanks to Helix. But if you're navigating this colder season and wondering how you're going to survive spending more time indoors, might I suggest becoming a bed person and staying comfortable indoors with your Helix mattress? I have multiple for myself and for guest rooms. I also have an office bed because I spend a lot of time in here and I like to write from bed. So I mostly write from my Helix Sunset down here. We've had a Helix Dusk Lux in our bedroom for years now. And we love it. And the quality is not compromised a millimeter since we've gotten it. It's kind of incredible. It's still the perfect balance of comfortable and supportive because we took the Helix Sleep Quiz, which matches you with the perfect mattress based on your personal preferences and sleep needs to make buying a mattress easy, because even I at the time was like, on what planet am I going to find the right mattress I haven't sat on before on the internet? But it actually does a really good job and has yet to lead the Beths astray. And I only get like rave reviews about Helix mattresses from you guys because it's a big purchase and it's a scary one to make on the internet sometimes. They are like these substantial mattresses with foam and coils. They've solved so many different problems from night sweats to back pain to motion transfer, and they really want you to be happy with your Helix, so they have a Happy with Helix guarantee, offering seamless returns and exchanges, a 120-night sleep trial. So please treat yourself while we're in these cold, long days of winter and get yourself something comfortable to sleep on with Helix. Go to helixsleep.com/BeThereIn5 for the New Year's sale final hours, which is 20% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/BeThereIn5 for the New Year's sale final hours, January 22nd through February 1st for 20% off site-wide. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. Last but certainly not least, this episode is brought to you by Hungry Root, especially because I couldn't be here talking if it didn't fuel me with their food. I think a lot of you have heard me talk about Hungry Root before, so you know how much I love it because it truly simplifies my life. As a busy parent, as a person trying to focus on their writing sabbatical, my gosh, I don't want to be spending my time grocery shopping and meal planning. And Hungry Root plans all my groceries for the week, fills my cart, and delivers everything I'll need to eat healthy every day, all while fitting my dietary preferences, my budget, my goals. Unlike other food delivery companies, Hungry Root has over 1,000 grocery items like smoothies and sweets and kid snacks, salad kits, ready-to-eat meals, etc. So it's really easy to find options. It's not like a meal delivery service where it sends you measured like partial ingredients to like make into one recipe, and if you don't make that recipe, you're kind of wasting it because you don't know what else to use it for. It sends you whole groceries with recommended recipes. You can use those groceries to make the recipes, but you don't have to. You can use them for other things. And I got the best box last week. It was like ribeye steak with a mushroom sauce, something for like smash burgers. And then I also got like a bunch of little snacks that just spoke to me, like cheese sticks and grapes. And I think maybe olives that I like mixed and would eat together as like a perfect sweet and savory snack. And like just easy, to go hummus and cracker sets we use for Teddy. And they just, I don't know, they have so many good things. And their algorithm's like really good at picking out what I'm going to like. And Hungry Root holds all its food to high standards, screening out over 200 additives. And I can't emphasize enough, if you have like a specific dietary restriction or allergy in your house, is the way to do it. And to like filter by things that all meet the standard you need to like feel like you can safely consume in the home. I think it's really nice for that. And you're going to love Hungry Root as much as I do. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/BeThereIn5 and use code BeThereIn5. That's hungryroot.com/BeThereIn5, code BeThereIn5 to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. This week I've been really trying so hard to understand this phenomenon people are talking about called VSCO girls. And so much of what they're about is so adjacent to what was popular in the 90s, early 2000s, etc. And kind of sent me into a whack-a-mole of rabbit holes as it relates to all the things that I loved when I too was young, pretentious about music, spending my parents' money buying bracelets at surf shops. And, I'm grateful that the days I would log long hours sitting in front of my huge-ass Gateway desktop computer, burning CDs I got from LimeWire, maybe BearShare, Napster in its heyday, and just making masterpiece playlists of songs that expressed how hard it was, to be a suburban white 14-year-old girl who spent her free time like going to youth group and playing volleyball and upon going to places like Myrtle Beach, the Outer Banks, Hilton Head, these are these rough vacation spots, tough corners of the world. I had to get a brew through oversized t-shirt, a salty dog. I needed if I wasn't at the Ron John or the Wings getting the latest and greatest in hemp and puka, then truly I was in a dark space. And when I would endure tough times like running out of allowance money, spending all my allowance money on a faux street sign from a souvenir shop at the beach that said Katie's parking only, when I would, return from vacation hoping to be tan, and then obviously, as you know, having to douse myself in my mom's blush so I could feign a sunburn. And I hoped that maybe my crush would notice that I had been gone, I had been vacationing, I was fresh, I was anew, I had that stunning back tan line with the big circle in the lower back and then the V in the upper back of a good solid swim team Speedo that your mom spent $75 on, so you will wear it for 8 summers. I really thought I had it all going on. But as it would always happen, I'd get home, I'd put something really subtle on my away message to make my crush wonder how I was doing and hopefully solicit a reaction. My away message, ever so subtly, not telling anybody that I was away. God, that would be ridiculous. It would simply say, and as for now, I'm going to hear the saddest song and sit alone and wonder how you're making out. But as for me, I wish that I was anywhere with anyone making out. And you know where he probably was? Making out with some smoking hot chick that's probably, the version of today's VSCO girl that I wanted to be, but in order to achieve a full starter pack of accessories to become a stereotype, it requires to put down some cash. And I was always trying to dabble in trends, but never could really fully commit to one. I mean, I don't know about you, but I couldn't just, drop $250 at a PacSun. I'm not the Sultan of Brunei. You want Vans, you go to Payless, you BOGO, you get the next best thing. They're like Vegoff brand Airwalks that kind of look like skater shoes. But again, do you need them? You don't really skateboard. But it doesn't matter because you got to put on skater shoes and you got to cut a side bang, not like a Kristen Cavallari side bang, but like an Ashley Simpson Pieces of Me era side bang. It had to be long enough to get close to your ear, but not so short that it was the type of side bang that was the official sponsor of male youth haircuts in the early 2000s, where for some reason they didn't use their hands and they would just violently shake their head to get their hair out of their eyes, and it had a slight swoop up at the end. I mean, they was smoking hot, and then they'd buzz their hair for baseball season. I'd be like, bye. And then they'd come back after the summer, good hair again. But anyway, you had to have this side bang. So when you feel uncomfortable or anxious, you can kind of grip your bangs with your hair, smooth them over your eyes. And then when you sit alone at home and cry to emo music, it can cover your eyes that are absolutely smothered in fistfuls of coal black eyeliner because, again, it's hard being you. Sometimes it was hard because my crush didn't respond. Sometimes it was hard because, I'd spend all day waiting for my precious playlist, what they're called now, but at the time mixtape, to burn. I'd have my Sharpies ready, locked and loaded to draw gorgeous flowers and butterflies, dragonflies, all the song titles to entitle the mix something brilliant, like for me, Y2KK, and only to have the CD mid-burn stall at 80% progress. And you're stuck, you're screwed. If you didn't have rewritable CDs at the time, that one was a goner. And what kids just don't get these days is, your skin gets a little tougher when your playlist takes 8 hours to buffer. And not to mention the toughness that is a result of years spent dabbling in low-key illegal activity as it relates to music pirating. And I don't know, it's been interesting digging into this phenomenon as I was trying to understand it and then therefore explain it to you. Because while I think that it's the most annoying group of people I've ever witnessed, I also don't think it's all that different from what we've been doing for years. So what's crazy about a VSCO girl is that when you look up the definition contains things you need to further defining, So whenever the definition of something is something that I don't understand, it's not really, well explained. So like you look up the definition of a VSCO girl and it'll say, it's a community of teenagers who have been labeled the Tumblr girls of 2019. What the F are what are the Tumblr girls? I think most of us are like probably a little old to understand that. I get on Tumblr to like look at Taylor Swift theories, but I'm not a lifelong Tumblr. If you're roughly my age, I would imagine when you hear Tumblr, you either think, great, I don't need a coaster. I love a cup that eliminates, perspiration, condensation rather. Or when I think of Tumblr, I think straight up gymnastics, like putting on my crushed velvet leotard, doing like some crooked cartwheels and acting like it was a round off back handspring, like triple tuck with a twist. To me, the real Tumblrs are the Magnificent Seven. Your Dominique Moceanu, your Shannon Miller, your Dominique Dawes, Carrie Strug, Justice for Amy Chow, Amanda Borden, and J.C. Phelps. I could use any tangent as an excuse to get into 1990s women's gymnastics and or figure skating, but we'll save that for a different day. Okay, they say a community of teenagers who have been labeled the Tumblr girls of 2019. They edit all of their photos with the VSCO app, use metal straws, always have scrunchies attached to their wrist, and a hydro flask at hand. Urban Dictionary defines them as basically the most basic girl you'll find out there. So VSCO is an app that I would liken to Instagram when it was not used as much as a social network as it was a photo editing app. If you recall, before we were graced with the likes of 10 million photo editing apps to like apparently oversaturate the crap out of everything you're doing so it matches the rest of your photos, their Instagram was like the first one that actually made photos look cool and old-timey, and there were filters, and we used a lot of vignettes, which now so embarrassing. I mean, I look back and the old feeds of my personal account, the amount of like Hudson, Valencia, oh my God, Amaro, that blown out light, it's like, take it down to 50%, like relax. You don't need to look like you're taking it through a lens of one of those old-timey Western photos at a Busch Gardens. But anyway, VSCO is a photo editing app that I've actually used before, and now I use a color story, but there was a time when VSCO was the premier editing app that I guess some people also use as a social network because you have a name and you can look at people's pictures, whatever, but they all have like a kind of similar vibe to them. I don't know what VSCO stands for, but that's just the name of the app. And it's kind of like they probably use the C1 filter. It's a high saturation. They kind of obsess over like the aesthetics and filters of their pictures. They make them look really grainy. They make the colors really high, the contrast really high. They try to like, I don't know, it's kind of like a version of preset culture that we're seeing a lot now. And by preset culture, I don't think that's a real thing, but I feel like, the 9-block feed flow, everybody wants their photos to look the same. It's kind of like how we say Amber Filler-Ups having a terracotta moment. It's like that is kind of the root of what VSCO is about. But a VSCO girl has taken on a life of its own that's kind of independent of the app. So while the photo app is important to their inception, I'd argue that it has very little to do with their execution. And their execution is mostly that there's like this series of young girls, they're teenagers, they live with their parents, they're on TikTok, formerly Musical.ly, now on TikTok, maybe YouTube, maybe Snapchat, maybe Instagram. I don't really know what the kids do these days, but TikTok is where I've seen the majority of it. And they, it's kind of this Snapchat attention thirst trap culture in the form of like a 90s girl kind of merged with an early surfer girl, reincarnated as a 2019 girl. And the hallmarks of their vibe is wearing a ton of scrunchies on their wrist, wearing a scrunchie in their hair. They have a ton of friendship bracelets, both beaded and with those like letter beads on them, but also braided, where you'd have to get a clipboard and like attach all this thread to it and like cat's cradle it up to create some garbage bracelet that you had to tie on yourself permanently that by the end of the summer was completely faded because of all the chlorine. You just have to snip it off and like there goes all, your hard work, your labor. Next summer, you're going to take your talents to hair wraps because it can be a frustrating process if you haven't elevated your jewelry making skills to using clasps yet. It's like, having a wristband on for an entire summer, but they have fistfuls. They have full arm parties of bracelets and scrunchies.
They wear oversized t-shirts and biker shorts. So they don't look like they have pants on. This to me is very 90s. The bracelets and scrunchies, very 90s. But then they have a lot of, so like, I'd say they have kind of that like Lisa Frankish, colorful, playful, Clarissa Explains It All vibe of like a mid 90s. But then it kind of, there are elements that start to creep into the late 90s, early 2000s of this era where we were all obsessed with like surf shops and surf couture. And effectively, if your closet was riddled with Billabong, with Rip Curl, with Roxy, with Quicksilver, it was couture. You were basically wearing middle school Balmain. And they also wear a lot of puka shell necklaces, which you could say are 90s, but I'd argue I didn't get into puka shell necklaces until I was at least mall culture age, until I was at least the age where I could ask my parents for money for lunch, get no lunch, and spend it all on jewelry at an unsupervised mall visit. And I had also, as I mentioned earlier, anytime we went on a family vacation to anywhere with a boardwalk within reach, I went straight there. I got a keychain that looked like a license plate with my name on it. I got a Katie's Parking Only sign. I got a puka shell necklace. I got maybe a dashboard hula girl, despite being like 4 years away from being able to drive. I love a boardwalk cheap souvenir shop. I love a Wings. I love a Ron John. I love the feeling. It's kind of like how the housewives, when they like go to Dubai or something, they're like, it's just different when you shop on vacation. I agree. And when you're, trying to kill time between getting shaved ice and going to eat bottomless crab legs, there's no more glorious time, no time better spent than balls deep in a souvenir shop, just buying the boardwalk's finest shark tooth to put on my puka shell necklace. Maybe I'd snag a authentic sweatshirt that just said the word lifeguard on it. I don't know if everyone has different experiences. Their fashion is this hilarious amalgam to me of like 2 decades of fashion. But then they also use hydro flasks because they care about the environment. They don't want to use plastic bottles. And they're very obsessed with saving the turtles. So they use metal straws and they carry them around everywhere. So basically, they just get on these apps or take videos of themselves or whatever with all their scrunchies and all their bracelets and their huge ass shirts and biker shorts and or their tube tops and mom jeans and their social consciousness. And they talk about saving the turtles and they drink out of these really loud, large, excessive mouthpieced hydro flasks, and they take their metal straws out of their bag. They spray their faces with Mario Badescu rose water, use like a lot of Carmex lip balm, which I've always thought is the grossest lip balm, but there is like such a distinct type of Carmex girl. There's also like a rosebud salve girl. I kind of fall in this weird zone where I actually don't use a ton of lip balm or chapstick or whatever. But when I do, I use Blistex, which I kind of feel, it's medicated, which so I feel like it's kind of like the orthopedic shoe of the lip balm family. It's not like sexy to slap on some Blistex and then give someone a smooch. But I guess what's also confusing to me is how like Urban Dictionary and the like keep referring to VSCO girls as basic. And I'm like, okay, so are scrunchies and bracelets and big t-shirts and biker shorts and tube tops, the blanket scarves, the bubble necklaces, the chambray tops, the distressed white jeans, and the Jack Rogers of teenagers? You know what I mean? And what is basic? Like, I'm kind of tired of even that classification anyhow. Because what I just said was how people dressed more so when basic became a term, but basic is ever evolving. And also, it's not a thing. We got to drop the basic. Just because something's popular doesn't mean it's wrong. Just because a lot of people like something, maybe that means a lot of people like it for good reason, because there's something about the quality or the stickiness of the concept or whatever it is that's resonating with large amounts of people. And just because you are being a contrarian and it doesn't make you cool, interesting, different, or any more valuable, then you're a basic bitch over there. Let's just all drink pumpkin spice lattes, watch Hocus Pocus, and get along, and also never talk about Hocus Pocus again, because again, the basic girls are kind of ruining it. So I feel 2 ways about it. I feel like we should just be allowed to enjoy our interests without having to quirkily
offset and justify them with qualifiers. Like, I know I'm so basic, but I love going apple picking. No shit. We all love an orchard. It's a glorious time. I love putting on a flannel. I love a hayride. I love an artful distressing of a knee of a blue jean and ankle boot that's, a cognac shade of brown. I love a cider donut. I love a hot cider. I love a cold cider. I love a farmer's market that in any other context, I'd say this has too many flies. There's a lot of flies, and there's the cleanliness, the produce, and the surroundings are definitely questionable. But in the fall, you convince yourself it's part of the charm. You convince yourself that you need a level of grit to really have that autumnal experience. And therefore, you go sit on a hay bale. And even though my sister got a tick from sitting on a hay bale when she was a kid, and every time I sit on a hay bale now, I think, oh my God, I'm, one sit away from being a full Yolanda Hadid. I get on the hayride and I go to that pumpkin patch and I think, why am I here? Oh, yeah, for photos. I take a cute photo. I bring back a pumpkin. Our eyes are filled with hope on the hayride back that we're going to make pumpkin pies. Better yet, we're going to make apple pies. For a moment, I even forget how annoyed I am that all the gala apples were picked over and I got stuck with a heap of red delicious and green apples. But also, I am allergic to apples. So when I get to the cashier and I picked a bushel by the pound and it's like $65 and I'm like, actually I can't eat these. And then it's like, not, it's not a Kroger. I can't go put it back on the shelf. What am I going to do? Go put it back in the tree? Wow, 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 wow. Kate from the Beyond. I was so deep in apple propaganda. I wasn't even eating apples at the time, but I knew to hold galas in a higher regard than Red Delicious. It wouldn't be until years later that my apple allergies would kind of slowly but surely subside and I would fall back in love with Red Delicious and remember I ate them as a kid. But as I've learned the hard way, an apple story a day does keep listeners away, so I will stop there. But I just think it's interesting. I had fallen for like the cool girl apple that I needed to be after, and I was insulting the greatest apple of our time that just doesn't get enough support. And I just wanted to say I'm sorry to the fellow Red Delicious community. I've since corrected my ways, and back to VSCO, girl, wash your face. If you're lucky, there's a corn maze. Somehow I live in the Midwest, which is like Cornchester, Townfieldville, USA, and I've never been to a corn maze, but as we know from Gilmore Girls, they're filled with romance and intrigue and familial arguments. They're a great place to get away from somebody, but as we know from the Harvest Festival and Parks and Recreation, they're very easy to get lost in, and I guarantee you I would be the little Sebastian in all of this, and I would get left behind in the corn maze with my tick and my apple allergy and realize, why the hell am I here? But I'm here because it's frickin' fall, y'all. And that's what we basic bitches do. There's no feeling like being dressed in light layers in the crisp fall air. Maybe there's a fire nearby and your cheeks are rosy and everyone's questions they're asking you are nosy. But who cares? Because you know what? You're cozy. And that is what matters in all of this. It's not the fall. It's not the foliage. It's not the apple picking and the hay rides. It's not Hocus Pocus. It's not the 31 Days of Halloween on Freeform. It's not Halloween Town. It's not Marnie. It's not any of that. It's just being freaking cozy is all we care about. And I just don't see why coziness is basic, Like, what was I doing when I was like straight up 14, 15? Because I think about the tween years a lot and middle school a lot. But I also think like 8th grade, freshman year-ish era is pretty interesting because you think you're so old and mature at the time, but like you could not be more emotionally immature and more emotionally volatile. And what do emotionally volatile people do? They post their feelings on the internet. Now they do it on Facebook with vague booking. They do it on TikTok or whatever the hell else it is. But in my youth, and likely yours too, the only way we knew how was to put these things on our away message. And there weren't video, they were verbal. And it was high risk to write your own poetry, your own prose. So we had to stick to song lyrics. You wanted to play it safe. You would, pick a Dave Matthews Band quote, the best of what's around. If you want to be like, speaking of basic, if you want to use Crash, like good luck, at least use Crush. That's a more sophisticated song. Just as long as you're around, I'm here, I'm dancing on the ground. Am I right side up or upside down? I actually love that song. I'd actually really enjoy going to a Dave Matthews Band concert. But truly, well, I mean, I've always loved words and lyrics, but like, I'm pretty convinced that I got really into music. And the reason I know a lot about music is because I clocked some serious hours downloading music and burning CDs and trying to navigate my way through, ways that song could express how I was feeling when I was a deeply emotional teenager that unfortunately had the ability to convey that on AOL Instant Messenger while I was IMing all of my crushes who would never commit to me. And through this, I found emo music. And through this, I was like this makeshift music snob that had no business being a music snob. But what's funny about emo bands, kind of like Dashboard or like Taking Back Sunday or Brand New or like Bright Eyes, I'm trying to think of like Saves the Day. I know these are all different, kind of varying genres and types, but these bands that there's a funny thing where like we all were simultaneously listening to them while still thinking they were incredibly unique and we were like living an alternative lifestyle. And what I think is so funny is how universally recognizable Dashboard confessional lyrics are, almost because of AOL Buddy info profiles or away messages. And to loop back, that's what made me think of the intro song, which was Dashboard Confessional's Screaming Infidelities. Now, I don't feel like we spent enough time together earlier. Well, let's just finish it out. You know, not the episode. You think I'm done? Let's just finish out the song a little bit because I want you to hear it build a little bit better. I thought I got more warm and cozy feelings from hearing those like beginning first few words, but the real banger comes now when, you know, prepared to be baptized and have all of your emotional turmoil wash away. You're reborn. And while I would like turn my nose up, I'd be like, oh, how nice. You like Simple Plan? Newfound Glory? Cute. Oh, you like All American Rejects? I mean, if I were you, I might keep that my dirty little secret because, you know, while John Tucker Must Die is a fine film and they did make that song for that movie, I do believe I'm more into some, bands that haven't sold out, that make real music, like Guster. Ever heard of them? I just feel like such a douche in retrospect. And anyway, I'm going to just quickly, we're going to review 2 Dashboard songs because these are icons, legends, heroes that I am not comfortable leaving unsung. So let's just do the end of Screaming Infidelities real quick.
As for now, I'm gonna hear the saddest songs and sit alone and wonder how you're making out. But as for me, I wish that I was anywhere with anyone making out.
Now comes the part where it's like what Greg says to me truly every day in my home.
Your hair is everywhere, screaming infidelities, taking it somewhere.
Yes, the infidelities part, my hair literally is everywhere. We have dark wood floors. And, poor Greg, because I have the shedding capacity of a golden retriever with none of the perks of the friendliness, the general flexibility, affability, and, outdoorsiness. Now, I hope I haven't lost you. I don't know. It's so hard for me to isolate what is specific to my individual, age group at a certain period of time and what's more universal. But then in this time too, it was early 2000s. I was in my early teens, early to mid teens. All you want to do is like impress boys and have like cool taste in music. I mean, I did nothing for me. I didn't want to be interesting. I didn't want to have my own unique taste. I just wanted to be liked. Honestly, my type at this point was quite literally pays attention to me, which, is sad, but I can also laugh about it now because it had very little to do with my like baseline confidence and everything to do with like almost a more shallow need to be liked, to have experience affection and romantic love, and to more so than anything just be at the same pace as my friends were, because being left out is truly, it's like getting fired as a teen. You know what I mean? It's like you failed, you're done, you have nothing. What's next? It's such a long process to find a new job or a new friend group. And, if you'd be on the outs of the friend group, or if they couldn't relate to you anymore, if they would go to the pool and not call you, I mean, it was awful. And when everybody was talking about making out and stuff and I hadn't yet, like I just wanted to experience it. And, when nobody was interested in making out with somebody that was an imperial foot taller than them, I had to blow off steam. I had to express emotion and I couldn't drive. So while others took their angst to the road and sang across the dashboard of their yellow Toyota Celica with a spoiler, I had to take to Dashboard Confessional. And the other song that really spoke to me, because again, these lyrics match the level of hardship I was going through. Is a song called Hands Down. And this song is very important to me. It instrumentally played at my wedding reception. And I'll let the lyrics speak for themselves. This is like the token away message at the time. And like, I just can't imagine like somebody's mom like peering, into their online activity and seeing my hopes are so high that your kiss might kill me. So won't you kill me so I die happy? It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, they also loved this quote from Taking Back Sunday that I was reminded of when looking up away messages over the weekend. And it is equally as, what's the word? Morbid? Gory? A lot of parallels between love and pain and like physical lacerations of one's body, which not a great message, but I still stand by this quote today and I find it incredibly deep, even though I don't think I really understood it at the time. I think it really represents what so many of us go through when we excessively apologize. In this quote by Taking Back Sunday in the song You're So Last Summer, that I find to be incredibly poignant, is the truth is, you could slit my throat, and with my one last gasping breath, I'd apologize for bleeding on your shirt. Let that marinate, guys. Let that marinate, just like it did when we reviewed that Rachel Parcell is living in her forever home, because it will be theirs for the next 4 to 5 years. It makes me wonder if Rachel Hollis was talking about Taking Back Sunday when she wrote Girl Stop Apologizing. Just kidding, I've never read that book. I read parts of Girl Wash Your Face. As I've said before, she called me a gangsta, and I pretty much bowed out from there. I have a lot of concerns as it relates to her teachings. Nothing against her personally necessarily, because I don't really know how much of somebody's personal life translates into what they teach. But I don't know. A lot of people ask me to deep dive Rachel Hollis, and I never know when, where, how is the best way, because she is so popular. And I don't want to be a contrarian just raging against something popular, but, I do have my issues with her teachings in terms of the major blind spot of privilege, in terms of the ignorance as it relates to mental health, in terms of, shaming people for things they can't control. I talk about Rachel Hollis a little bit on the episode, actually a lot on the episode Murder and Macaroons. And I believe at the end of the first Mormon Mommy Bloggers, I think I kind of vaguely talk about how much I hate gurus. But I don't know. Maybe I'll do a deep dive someday. I just don't know. Like, I haven't read both books. The other problem is, too, like, I talk on this podcast from my own experience, my own place of privilege. Like, all this VSCO girl crap, it's like, VSCO, girl, wash your face. Like, relax. But I don't, it's hard to separate yourself sometimes between... Like my childhood was lovely, and it was simple, and it was cushy, and I was incredibly lucky. And even though I joke about the perils of sitting in front of a desktop computer crying because perhaps my crush abruptly signed offline, perhaps my mom picked up the phone and it booted me offline. And then when, we were in the middle of an intense conversation, and then, by the time I dialed back up, he was offline. Maybe I was crying because my CD took 8 hours to buffer and stopped at 80%. Like, these hormonal, volatile times, these are your experiences, and they're so sensory because of how intensely emotional I felt at that time as a person with a lot of feelings, period. But you add in that period of time, and it just becomes a complete emotional disaster. And today on Instagram, I asked people to share with me their worst Facebook album names, from years past, because I think there's this hilarious, similar to what was your, most inappropriate Abercrombie t-shirt. One of my favorite things to do is to ask people who are the photo takers of the friend group to go back and look at your Facebook album titles, because they were an art and a science. You had to lure people in. The whole point of Facebook, it largely still is, but especially, I'd say it was started in 2005? In 2006-07, when like the photos feature first happened, there was like a solid handful of years where it was of the official platform of just showing your high school friends you're having more fun than they are, and or showing your ex you're just the best revenge is living well. Not only are you smoking hot now, you also are super fun. And hot plus fun in all of our heads equals, your ex sitting at home crying, listening to the fray. And while it probably never happened, I, love to think that, based on the sentiment of my away message, or, me changing my profile picture to like a smoking hot photo where I didn't know how to exactly take the red eye out. So while slightly demonic, I'm also wearing an adorable, Golf Pros tennis hose outfit to show that I'm having a blast in my sorority and doing things with boys. It's like everything had these underlying, double, triple meanings of what you hope people would garner from them upon viewing them. And Facebook albums are a thing where people use a lot of song titles, a lot of inappropriate words, a lot of god-awful spellings, asterisks, squigglies. That's the entire premise of that episode, Ween Pics. And even she listened to my podcast episode and then texted me and was like, until you said that they reminded you of actual pics of weens, I never even knew why it was funny. I just thought you thought the word choice was funny. I was like, no, because it says ween pics. It was, oh, bless her heart. And I have another friend who it makes me laugh so hard because when she first moved to Chicago in the early 2010s, she has this album called it's like Took My Talents to Chi Town, or like Living It Up in the Chai, and it's spelled like CHAI, and it's like it's something, it's took her talent. I don't know. It's something about like living it up. I took my talents to Chi Town, like concrete jungle where dreams are made of, Midwest style, like look at me. And I just remember being like, oh my God, so fun. Like I'm probably in this album. What's it about? And I click on it and it is just 36 photos of a gorilla. They just went to the Lincoln Park Zoo and took 36 photos of a gorilla. It's so stupid. But it's things like this that are just like my absolute favorite. And we weren't in an era where you had to have flow on your 9 block. We weren't in an area of arena of aesthetics. For a while there, it was a total free-for-all. It was like, oh my God, a gorilla. It moved a little to the left. It moved a little to the right. Oh my God, it's sleeping. The people need to know. And you upload it and you probably got tons of likes and it just didn't matter. And it was a time of great freedom, but also great burden for many of you probably not knowing what is still out there. And I asked people today what were their best Facebook album title names, and I'll read you a few because I don't know why. These are just so stupid. It's funny because like they're just considerably lamer than Instagram captions. Like I feel like Instagram captions will use a pun, maybe a song lyric, but like these are just so sign of the times for me. One category are nonsensical inside jokes that are the funny part almost is that in you sending me them, I have no idea what they are, and nor do anybody on your Facebook. So when you're like, what's that smell? Spring Break '09, I don't know what that is. But that's actually funny because the girl sent me a screen grab of the album that is called What's That Smell? And it's literally... it's literally of a mouse that got trapped under a carpet, and they're like quest to uncover this dead mouse, and then like heavy photographic evidence of this dead mouse. And it's just like, why do we feel like we needed to share this stuff? It's just funny to think of like, this will stand the test of time. People are going to care about the horrible smell on my spring break because there was a mouse that died under the carpet. There's the inside jokes I don't understand, but I appreciate those who sent photos for context. I was laughing so hard. But then, for every basic B out there, there's a handful of album titles that you just know are safe. No offense, ladies, but there is the token uncreative girls that knew they could play it safe with an album title like May We Stay Forever Young. But what was so funny is like the safest of all the safe is to name it after the season. So I was bombarded with so many spring has sprung, spring-a-ling, spring-a-ding, spring-a-ling-a-ding-dong, spring, spring, sprung, I'll break your spring, sweet summertime, six-pack summer, summer breeze, makes me feel fine, SUMM number 3, R, summertime girls are the kind I like, a couple, summertimes, we gotta dig deep.
But my favorite that I forgot about, because I loved this song but totally forgot about it, is so many people quoted Dashboard Confessional, So Long Sweet Summer, with obviously So Long Sweet Summer, but also Hey Thanks, Thanks for That Summer. Summer Love, another popular title. Olivia Newton-John, Summer Lovin', another popular title. You know, I'd say, I don't know, 90% are Kenny Chesney quotes. Like, remember that song I Go Back? When I graduated high school, I Go Back was a song, and I'd maybe cry still listening to it, because it's very much about leaving behind your high school friends. And that's when, you know, watching summer fade to fall. So, of course, after we have Spring a Sprung, Spring-a-ling a Ding Dong, Spring Sprung, I'll Break Your Spring, Sweet Summertime, Six-Pack Summer, Summer Breeze Makes Me Feel Fine, Summer Lovin', Hey Thanks, Thanks for That Summer, Sweet Summertime, Watching Summer Fade to Fall, Wishing Time Would Stop Right in its tracks, It's Fall, Y'all, Fall is in the Air, Fall is in the Air, which, respect to you for incorporating a classic album title like Fall is in the Air with the hit song In the Air. You know, we have The Tans Will Fade, but the memories will last forever. Less than sign 333333. Smiley face. I mean, we've got a lot of Dave Matthews up in here. A lot of wait, who's it? This is not Dave Matthews, but time is never wasted when you're wasted all the time. That, I forgot about that quote. That's a very live for the nights you'll never remember with friends you'll never forget, except it's horrible. Time is never wasted when you're wasted all the time. Yowzas. And along those lines, too, there's so many album titles about blacking out. Like, why were we so comfortable telling people we like to black out? It's like, blackout or get out, white and blackout party, Brianna's blackout 21st, lights out blackout. I mean, truly, so many blackouts. And then a number from what I do believe is Kesha's TikTok. And no, Nicole, I do not believe before you leave, you brush your teeth with a bottle of Jack, but I'm glad the party doesn't start till you walk in. There are so many people that had the party don't start till I walk in. A lot of alternating caps. One girl specified that it was just photos of her friends in hoodies drinking Four Locos. I love when you guys describe what it is. It makes it even funnier. Because like one girl said, Spring Break '08 was the album title. And it was just pics of me organizing my boyfriend's closet. Did you take pictures? Why did he put you to work? How much? So stupid. This girl said, no album title, just a full album of selfies of me with my mom's office equipment. Why'd you do that? Like, oh, the places you'll go, but it's just pics of me, my friend, and a cardboard cutout of Justin Bieber. Like, is that what is Theodore Geisel, one Dr. Seuss, thought of when he wrote the graduation classic, Oh, the Places You'll Go? Probably. The two less lonely girls. Nothing wrong with that. There is like a lot of mentions of how you would go to like Florida for 2 days over like a weekend, but you'd have like Florida 2K7 albums 1 through 5. Like, how did you take 5 albums that hold 100 photos in 2 days in Florida? It's truly amazing. A lot of people. A lot of turtle mentioning. So either you love turtles, you are like a huge Ramona Singer Turtle Time fan, or you're a Delta Zeta, because like baby turtle, turtle hunting, turtle time, like a lot of turtles up in here. Some bad sorority puns, like, and then a lion fell in love with a phi lamb. Okay, I can't. There's one I posted on Instagram that made me laugh so hard because it's a. It just says Barnes and Noble Adventures, which like compared to like Blackout, Get Out, All Time Is Never Wasted When You're Wasted All the Time, Hot and Dangerous, Playing with Fire, Shorty Got Looks, Shorty Got Class with 5 S's, Promiscuous Girls, Doing It and Doing It and Doing It Well, I'm Hot Cause I'm Fly, Skanks with 5 Z's. I just like bless your heart for having an album called Barnes and Noble Adventures. And like I say that because I spent a ton of time at the Barnes and Noble. There's an episode in one of the first 10 episodes. I detail how, you know, some people's parents would go like wait in line at the Sam Goody for when an album came out. But like my parents, you know, God bless them, had lives and discipline and, you know, made me work for it. So therefore I would often not get access to CDs that came out and sold out, like No Strings Attached, like Hanson Snowden. I take that back. That's the one time my mom went to the Sam Goody for me. God bless her. It's my favorite Christmas album. So I'd have to go to the Barnes & Noble and I'd have to listen to the demo tapes with the headphones that are attached to the kiosk. And you could only hear the chorus, much like iTunes. It's very depressing. And they're usually just singles.
But I really look back on that time fondly because I, get a Frappuccino. It would be poorly made because, as we all know, both Barnes and Nobles and airports somehow make the most underwhelming beverages, and despite heinously overcharging for them. Because they're not real Starbucks. I'm like, what kind of training do these clowns have? I watch them forego nutmeg on a PSL, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to be that girl. But this beverage is lacking a seasonal spice. It's frustrating, but I don't know. I used to love to go read Cosmo. I would go read 17. I'd go read YM. I would just like drown myself in ridiculous articles about how to make him hot, and learn about boys, and learn about anatomy, and learn about like discharges and like weird gross questions people would ask about, like, I'm growing hair down there. And I just was like, I was like, tell me more. I couldn't have enough. Wasn't allowed to read them at home. So I'd go to Barnes and Noble, and it was a simpler time, and I love it so much. But I just was laughing so hard when I got that submission because it was in between, like literally wedged between Skanks with 5 Z's, and like we made it through college without getting pregnant. Great album title. Obsessed with a lot of these song lyrics, especially how they're written. Like, I less than 3, I heart this record, baby, but I can't. Letter C, straight, letter N, letter E, more. We divas with a Z, but we ride like big boys do. Great Danity Kane shout out. I love an unironic drop of a Danity Kane lyric just because you were like a legit fan at the time. A lot of this is the way I live, understandably. It's a real hodgepodge. Like some are, so wholesome, or like standard, like friends in low places. Girls just want to have fun. Blue Jean Baby. But then it's like hands on your knees, hands on your knees. Or I love like when I walk in the club, all eyes on me. Was that party rock anthem? What happens in Iowa stays in Iowa. Yeah, it actually quite literally does. Meaning I just don't really know if the rest of us literally know what happens there. Let's see. The more boys I meet, the more I love my dog. I think that was on a t-shirt. Go Greek or go home. A lot of Greek stuff. This one, my favorite was the ones that were like, I found my camera cord. Because that was a very real problem, not having your USB cord. And like, God knows, we were waiting with bated breath for your god-awful photos of us blinking with like red faces and like beer pong stained jean skirts. I just love the ones that are like, found my camera cord, or like spring break pics finally, like as if everybody was waiting for them. Let's see, Halloween 09 is greater than swine 09 because the swine flu was happening. We can laugh now, right? What's the statute of limitations on a public health crisis? Nobody Likes You when you're 23, classic. The quarter I raised my GPA and BAC. You know what? Points for creativity. I like that. 25, sitting on 25 mil. She caveats, I made $11 an hour. Yeast infection. It was my first brewery tour. Oh no. Oh God. That's too bad. You could have at least played on the words infection so it wasn't so literal, I've been talking again like more Rose a lot lately. Literal. Delightfully busy. Like yeast inspection, like inspecting my first brewery, Whatever. I'm not gonna lie. If I was one of your friends at the brewery and it was like, Rachel tagged you in 6 photos from her album, Yeast Infection, it would be like super soaking those untags. That was another thing people did, is like make their album titles like no untagging, no untags allowed, tag you're it. I mean, just like a lot of tagging things. But yeah, why would threatening people not to untag is funny. What time is it? Shot 30, birthday concussion. Oof, rough stuff, girlfriend. New Blackberry. A lot of these I'm laughing just because I remember albums that are called this. Like, nobody cares you have a new Blackberry, because also it's the camera on those were so bad. This girl loved Switchfoot, and she had 2 albums, one in all caps, This Is Your Life, and the other one, Are You Who You Want to Be? Whew, intense. But what I cannot get over is that 2 people, not 1, but 2, went on a mission trip in high school and named their albums. One was Doing It Missionary Style, and one was just Missionary Style. And guys, were you not with a religious organization? Did your youth leader with youth master good looks not pull you aside and say, "Hey, save your jokes for the dog adoption event, you clown. You can go with doggy style then, but let's maybe, keep it together for posting pics of like the youths of Nicaragua and the school we built them." That was an interesting phenomenon. And like I know a lot of people in general have a lot of thoughts about this in the modern day, but specifically like in the past, so many people would go on these mission trips with like church or whatever, their youth groups, and like they'd have to pay a lot of money to go. And the church would kind of fundraise, but it was still kind of expensive. They'd go to third world countries and they would like build schools and stuff, but they'd also take like tons of pictures with these kids and post them on Facebook, like lots of them. And I always thought that was weird. I mean, not only because I was like, God, everyone now knows you're a better person than me, but also because it's like weird. I still think a lot of people call it like poverty porn. It's like when you depict a country that is largely typecast as being, and I know this isn't even the correct word anymore, third world, but it's not. And like it could probably really benefit from showing aspects of its economy that are thriving, but instead people choose to focus on the parts, whether they mean to or not, that from a spectator standpoint are so wildly different from the way we live, hence why they're taking a picture. I just always, I don't know, I've always thought that was like really weird. And like everybody would come back like wearing bandanas around their forehead, and like they had group t-shirts and they had all these like inside jokes, and they were like, enlightened all of a sudden, and like would talk to me about how we don't even know how lucky we are. And I'm like, what? Stop. Like, relax. You're there for 4 days. You stayed in a Ramada Inn. One of those 4 days, they like took you out for a beach day. You basically were at like a port of a Carnival cruise line and like went just 2 miles inland, built a school, took a bunch of pictures with innocent kids that shouldn't be plastered all over the internet, uploaded it to Facebook, and hope your crush all of a sudden thinks you're Mother Teresa. Like, relax. The evolution of a badass A2M, aka ass to mouth. Whoa! You were 17? Whoa! Is that what happens in Iowa? I don't know. Is this a strip club or ATO formal? Sounds wholesome. I'm Engaged is the album title, but it's just a bunch of blurry pics of Lil Wayne. Oh, God. We've got another one that's swine flu related. Fornication, all caps, aka Super Bowl. Must have been an inside joke. I'm going to argue you maybe went to California and you just decided to call it fornication. And then, of course, the ever popular, like, web shots, are just regular shots, or just spring break shots, or like date party shots. We're just like, we're visionaries. Millennials are truly like, we are the world, we are the future, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start living. Okay, I need to stop. I just keep getting in good ones. I mean, I got Blackout, Makeout, or Get Out. Like, that's a classic. Is that Shakespeare? It's beautiful. Kate from the Beyond. In present day. Well, first of all, Facebook album titles, 10 out of 10. Did You Ever Know You're My Hero? Those are so fucking funny. I've read them at live shows over the years. Every time when the groundhog sticks its head out, I think about spring, sprung, spring-a-ling-a-ding-dong. Regardless of the other contents of that episode, I'm like, oh, maybe that was the segment that stuck out to people, because that to me is like peak party girl Beths in going out tops, just being absurd millennials with no concept for the internet's longevity or your digital footprint, just like plugging in that camcorder, writing those captions, having the biggest yearbook staff energy anyone ever did see, and feeling so self-satisfied. And it's just so peak millennial culture. It delays me to my core and always will. So that was a fun surprise because I forgot that was part of it. I did confirm I was talking like Moira Rose at the time. That's kind of funny. But yeah, I don't like, there's a couple things I'm like, well, now I would never call a Starbucks barista anywhere. Airport, Barnes & Noble or otherwise, they're probably working even harder because of those crazy crowds. I would never call them a clown. I'd be worried people in Iowa would be upset because that is that I didn't know what happens there, and most of us don't. Rude. I think I might be worried that my Yolanda Hadid tick joke was a little unsavory. There was a couple other things I'm like, oh, I would cut that out now. Nothing like that serious, though. Yeah, I completely cut out the middle because this wasn't on theme with the nostalgic mashup. But the middle was like diving in. It was kind of like lightly diving into some like sleuthing of Rachel Hollis's plagiarism claims. But yeah, it like wouldn't be that interesting with what we know now. But I remember feeling like it was borderline daring at the time for me to suggest that I thought she was kind of a grifter, like repackaging self-help advice and using like quasi-Christian anecdotes about her crumbling marriage to tell you how to care for yours. And there was like such concerning stuff about like sex in there. And it was all very, if I can do it, so can you. And I don't know. It was stuff like interrupt anxiety with gratitude. And like, I think a person in a clinically anxious space, like that is so fucking frustrating to hear, to have Pinterest plastered, to have somebody say to you when you're like genuinely struggling that it's your like choice, you're not being grateful enough. And I think that like, it still gets me heated when I talk about it. But I actually feel like that kind of self-help is kind of coming back around. So I don't know. And I think I just also feel so weird now. Like, I mean, that Dave Hollis is dead and like, just what a tragic ending. And so, I don't know. It's sad. That's an episode that definitely brought a lot of people to the show, but is kind of a weird one for me because it's kind of outside of, like, I think the deep dive is a signature to me, but I feel like a takedown call out of like a woman, I still have a little bit of discomfort for being known for that. I don't know if you ever kind of lose that anxiety as a recovering girl boss that like you should just be above all supporting other women, even though obviously you don't prioritize this person over the many people they were like misleading. I don't know. By the way, I switched gears. I'm talking about the Rachel Hollis deep dive, not VSCO Girl Wash Your Face. And yeah, when I said I was going to like play some classic BTI5 episodes or like fan favorites or whatever, people have asked me if I'm going to re-air Rachel Hollis, and like that, no, that's not my intention actually. Even though it's like a popular one that brought a lot of people here, it's kind of core BTI5, but it's also not. I also feel like what's on the show is proportionate to like the media that's out too, because like in the late 2010s, early 2020s, there was a lot of influencer fatigue. We were on high alert for scams, which kind of led into like a more widespread public discourse about MLM skepticism and rethinking the girl boss. And there was also like endless cult documentaries that came out. And I was having so much fun kind of like piecing these things together because I was like in the depths of doing research about them individually in ways that a normal person just consuming the news wouldn't. So I really had fun as like the convo kind of progressed from lightly talking about Mormon mommy bloggers and my own experience in religion. And then it kind of went to talking a bit more about like self-help gurus, how they overlapped with MLMs. I got really into cults after that one episode where it was after my sisters-in-law and I were in Michigan and we saw there was like this spooky house across the lake that to this day I don't know what it was, but it was like big and white and had a cross on the top and was like funded by a vague, untraceable church with like multiple accounts attached to it. And then when we went in to look for it, we realized it had a mailbox but no driveway. And that was around the same time as the Nexium cult documentary. And from there, I was just like, oh, I shall take on this niche until I tire of it. And I actually didn't, but there weren't as many good documentaries that came out. And I actually haven't even watched the Mary Cosby one yet because I heard it like there wasn't like a ton of new information. And I think that's the hard part about things that are culty, but maybe not full on cults. It's like you don't always have the strongest, most entertaining argument. I feel like at a lot of churches, but especially in the event you are as loaded as she is, you being a member of the clergy in some ways, like your primary income, like obviously something's off. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so yeah, I guess I'm not sure if that part of people's reception to this episode initially was about the Rachel Hollis part that I cut out, sorry. But I don't think it'd be interesting now. But what's also interesting to me about, like I told you, this was a time when I was very self-conscious about like the rambling and the tangents, and eventually I just kind of owned it. But this is why it's hard for me to abandon that style, because it sometimes like leads to things that were important, like side thoughts I had that ended up being like very important and things that I could follow up on that I could have just like skipped over. And to think that this all spurred off because I was talking about the Taking Back Sunday quote about you could slit my throat and I'd apologize for bleeding on your shirt, which is so dark, by the way. I'm sorry to laugh. We talked about this at the book tour too. And so many of you relate to using that quote in some way. And it's just like, are we okay? I think just because of the world apologizing is why I said something about girls stop apologizing. And that's how it got the title VSCO Girl Wash Your Face. Now I'm forgetting. I think I like half listen because I'm always worried that the next thing I say is going to be cringy. Listen, shout out to Rachel Parcell. I made a snarky comment about her forever home. And one of my favorite things about bloggers is that when they build forever homes and then 3 to 5 years later, they build another forever home. And yeah, they were 22 and even already past their starter home. I'll be lucky if I finish in a starter home. Rachel Parcell was building a forever home, but I thought her home before was a forever home. And then I was like, oh, I can't wait. It's going to be 3 to 5 years. This was back when I was in my more mommy blog era. And I still now think all of this is funny. But like Rachel, like, I don't think was happy with me at first. But ultimately, like, they were such good sports. I've hung out with them a couple times in person because of mutual friends. Like, I have Rachel's phone number. I feel like we're friendly now. And it's like kind of crazy to look back on. And it seems so long ago. And it's interesting to hear me say that in passing, because that was such a part, like, it was almost like a canonical part of what we talk about on the show. And the ultimate FU new construction is the FU to me, because I say forever homes are 3 to 5 years, but I believe this is like the 6th year in their home. And I'm still renting, so who's winning? No, but it's come a long way since me being exasperated that her kids' playroom in her house was a smaller version of their house inside their house. And yeah, good times. I also, like, I think part of me revisiting some of this stuff is really fascinating as a parent, because, like, I was thinking about this during the listening to the grinding part. I'm like, well, see, now I feel like I'm skewing a little more Mark Spencer, a little more Chris Vagnini than the kids, because it's like, it's funny when we did it because we know it was like innocuous, harmless, and for the most part, we turned out okay, hopefully. But like when the context of your own kid, it becomes a little different, and you're like, ugh, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, I'm like writing an op-ed to the Hartford Gazette or whatever. Not really. I mean, I have such a young child. I'm not there yet, but even like these away messages and stuff, I can now see why it might have been a little challenging for my parents when I first like became a public figure and shared my stories a lot on the podcast, because it was like a ton of stuff they didn't know about me. Like, never crossed my mom's desk, the Taking Back Sunday quote, I can tell you that much. And if it crossed mine as a mom, I'd be like, what is wrong with you? And again, it's funny because we know, we understand it in context, but it makes you ask yourself a lot of questions about like the importance of that level of independence and privacy that's harmless when you intervene, what needs context and is like an inside joke or an insular world amongst the tweens. And I don't know, I have a lot of swirling thoughts, but I've kept you on too long and need to go. I didn't have as much to say about this episode, I don't think. I don't know. How do you guys feel about these in hindsight? It's interesting people say that they love these. I don't know that these are my favorite, but I think that they're kind of like hubs for what would be like many spokes of other episodes and topics and things that made their way into One in a Millennial when I wanted to like cement some of my work in a longer form. And I'm grateful for your reception to them at the time or now, or I don't know. This was an interesting exercise for me, given my phobia of going back in the archives. And in some ways it's good. In some ways I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm glad I got better equipment. I mean, like, these are probably not interesting insights to you, but I can just tell I'm recording in the wrong room. It's not insulating my voice enough. I have issues with the sound quality, but hey, it's okay. It was a learning process. I was learning out loud, at times laughing too loud at my own jokes. You go crazy when you're talking to yourself. What can I say? Still am. For the next episode, I don't know if I'm going to do, like, I have a lot of different ideas for what I want to experiment with. At one point, I might actually just do like a live hour, have people call in or write in and just make it like more of a radio show. Plus, my dream is always, as you know, been to be a radio host. Delilah agreed once to be on my show, and then I never heard from her again, and I like can't get in touch with her. I hope she knows I love her. And also, yeah, if you want to write into 775 Hey Beth or call in and leave a voicemail, tell me what's been going on in pop culture. Tell me if there's ever a moment that, I mean, if this ever happens, I don't know, and you're like, hey, what does Kate think about that? And I'm on my, hiatus, like, write or call in. And then one of these weeks, I'm gonna grow tired of not being here, even though I am here. And I will talk about current events, and then I'll just go through like the mailbag to see what I should get caught up on. I think that'd be fun. Regardless, thank you for being here. Please come back. I love you so much. On Patreon, we talk about the latest in Blake Lively and Taylor Swift's text messages, a little bit of Brooklyn Beckham. I'm mostly just interested in the Taylor Swift and Blake text messages. But then, like, I tried to on Instagram be like, guys, would you not? I said so much more about a lot less in terms of a little bit tiny violin for somebody who's like a friend. If a friend is coming to you saying their coworker is terrorizing them at work, what are you going to do? Ask clarifying questions? No. You ride hard, you ride blind. You go big or little bitch or go home. Taking it out of the like case and the insane amount of context and nuance in like 4,000 pages of court documents. Like, I don't even remember where we stand. It was just interesting to see their correspondence, and like probably so violating too that I feel even bad talking about it, because like what a nightmare for those being released. But yeah, it's like it's hard to talk just about the exchange without people making it about the broader case, which I understand. But also, like, I just thought it was specifically the exchange about Blake being like, is something up? And Taylor being like, yeah, you sound like you're talking to me like a corporation. I want my friend back. I like thought that was really a fascinating, straightforward, like mature exchange. But I got like ripped a new one in my DMs. And I'm like, we're on a break. Meeting me in pop culture, trying not to go too deep. So give me a break. But yeah, that crazy week in pop culture. Patreon.com/BeThereIn5. And otherwise, thanks for tuning in. If you've been here this long within this episode, if you've been here this long since 2018, 2019, like, my God, I hope you have a great week. Please come back. Please subscribe. Please listen again. Hell, press play and don't listen. Just throw me a bone. See if I care. I feel very anxious about this hiatus. And yeah, otherwise, talk soon. All right, you guys, as always, let me know your thoughts and I'll let you know mine. I'll be there in 5, I swear.